How many gyms are on your roster?
79.
79. Okay. And 80% of them are selling supplements?
80%.
Okay. Out of the 79, you're a coach with Gym Launch. Your former client smashed it, went from what, 30K to 120K a month?
Yep.
36K or something
Yeah, it
like
was
that?
around mid-30s.
Mid-30s?
Yeah, we were within less than a year.
Running a franchise model that was kind of broken,
Yeah.
and you had to flip it, do it. Now you're coaching and you're crushing it, and your roster is incredible. The people on your roster love working with you. What's the biggest thing that you would say that sets apart the gym owners that come in to Gym Launch, smash it, versus the ones that struggle or ultimately just end up leaving and not doing well?
Honestly, the ones that come in and crush it are the ones that come in with an open mind and they're willing to try to put forth the effort to do the strategies that we implement, right? Because it is a longer term game, and a lot of times people are looking for an immediate return. And so the ones that do come in, that do trust the process, because you have to go in and kind of take apart the business a little bit there. But the ones that come in with an open mind and they're willing to implement the actual strategies, which a lot of times is going to be like, hey, can I get a positive return on my acquisition right away? The ones that come in and do that with an open mind, they typically are the ones that they kill it.
How many of the gyms do you think have broken models when they first come in? At least one thing wrong with their gym.
Most, yeah.
Almost every single gym that comes in. Yeah, I would at least minimum 9 out of 10 gyms. Whether it's a capacity issue or a pricing lever or unlimited sessions, you name it.
What's the number one problem that you see that's prevalent from a business model perspective of the gym lords that join Gym Launch?
It's for sure going to be like gross margins on the floor. So it's actually a combination of things, whether it's your pricing or attendance.
So having too many sessions typically versus what you're actually collecting in revenue, meaning you're also paying your coach, so you're not making enough revenue per session.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Interesting.
I'd say that's even like a symptom of something bigger, which is a lot of gym owners trying to do a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not really sure where they want to specialize because maybe they just haven't found that yet. So the fact is, like, at the end of the day, you have large groups, semi-private, private, some special, maybe a no man's land program where there's like 8 or 9 on the floor. And so now what's happening is that we're making no money.
Yeah.
Right? And so you've got high churn and all the focus is spread thin.
How many gyms come in that you work with specifically? Because we've all worked with hundreds, thousands of gyms. How many of the gyms that come into your roster, your onboarding, what percentage of those come in with that problem where they're scattered across multiple different types of programs? They're trying to do too many different things. They're not actually good at one central service.
I would say 70 to 80% of gyms that come in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, it's the old, Mike, to your point, it's the old build and they will come thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what the vast majority of people do come in with. So they do have a combination of personal training. They have a semi-private model. They have a large group or an adult, large group. They have a youth model. And so they're trying to run all these different things, which is why your bandwidth is
Why do you
high.
think they do that?
Because they don't know. They don't know the strategy of each one of those models versus, like, we call it the wedding cake, right? And so let's just build out your base layer first. A proven systematic method to scaling a boutique gym, or if you do the group side. But that's typically the ones that are going to have like multiple different styles of training.
Yeah.
I think it's something we talked about too, and I made this mistake for years, which is I think most people they just misread it as they think it's an opportunity, but it's really a distraction. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, like a green entrepreneur, somebody that's just like, eventually you start to see that most things that you could do actually are going to distract you from the goal that you're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, I'll just start semi-private, right? Like, if I build it, they will come, or I'll start, one-on-one or whatever. The ultimate goal usually is I want to change more lives, make more money, whatever it is. And had they just stayed the course, gotten better at the one thing they were already doing, right, they'd move faster, right? And so I think it comes from a place of, wanting to achieve whatever it is, like, grow a bigger business, thinking this is an opportunity for me to grow the business. This is an opportunity for me to make more money. where really, truly the truth is that's actually distraction, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we see is over time, like to your point, the ones that lean in, do the work, trust the process, say no to more things, right?
Yeah, but that's hard.
Oh, so hard.
Like you think about it, it's like, yeah, because, you know, when I was making no money, I'm going to take money any way I can. Because if my gym, when I was before gym launch, when I'm losing $3,000 to $4,000 a month, I'm going to take whatever I can. If someone's like, well, I don't really want that. Do you have personal training? I'm like, yep, I got personal training. Like, yes, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have any time and I can't scale it. But you know what? That's going to float me for the next month. Mm-hmm. And like, how many times does that happen where we think about it when we're struggling and we're just going to take anything we possibly can, which is interesting because a lot of gym owners say this, because I said this, I'm not in it for the money. But then when it gets down to it, you do all these changes because you're like, shoot, I need the money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's a double-edged sword, right? You're doing it because you do want to help people, but you need the money. And you're doing it because you're not sticking to you don't know how to fix or solve the problem in the one thing that you started with.
Right.
Which I think is really interesting.
Well, to that point, I think one of the things too is like it comes down to a belief. And so people like that, especially the ones that start with a personal training model and they're like, oh, because I can get the money to float it. It's because the vast majority of gym owners have this negative connotation to sales.
Yes.
And so I think until people do understand the importance of sales outside of just the financial aspect, like you've got to make money, otherwise you won't have the business, right? Which is why you come see us. But then also like the point of that sale is to help somebody make a decision to move forward with their health and fitness. And the PT side is easy. And yes, that brings you that $100 for that session, which most people honestly probably charge 60 or 70 bucks an hour. But it's like showing them the ability, hey, what if you could make a $600 sale in 30 minutes on like a challenge or a front end offer? And even worst case scenario, if you're a gym owner out there that doesn't believe you can sell a 6-week challenge, what if you just sold an EFT that you wouldn't have to fill on the floor for an hour for that one individual, and you sold it to them at $196 in that 30 minutes? Now you've doubled your income in that hour that you would have spent on the floor.
Yeah. Let's talk about sales, because last night we were talking about this and you said one of the biggest things was a lot of people, we were talking about like the ads that we run. Right. And, you know, we get a lot of comments and like, that's not possible. And someone going from 30,000 to 100,000, or they're doing $60,000 a month or whatever it is. Right. Like it sounds so unbelievable to most people because and it was to me until I started making sales. It was to you.
I didn't believe
it.
Right.
Yeah. You didn't believe
it.
I was
at $89 a month unlimited.
Yeah. And what were you guys doing before you started? You were mid 30,000.
Yeah. So we had people on like 29 to 39 a week unlimited.
Yeah. Unlimited.
Yeah.
So you think about that pricing, and that comes from the franchise that you were with.
Yes.
Right. And then were you struggling to sell those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So struggling to sell $29 to $39 a month. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, did you wonder like how in the world am I going to sell $5.99 or $6.99?
Yeah.
Challenge?
Even my first month in. I think our first month of running ads in gym launch, actually, when we actually finally joined and we were like, okay, we need some help. Back then we did the AB close, right? Where you could go either EFT or 6-week challenge. And they had all these people in the gym launch community selling these challenges. I was like, well, not in South Louisiana. People aren't going to buy that, right? Because of course our area is going to be different.
You're the exception to the rule.
Yeah, we're the exception to the rule, right? So I would be like, hey, 6-week, $5.99, but this EFT down here. And so
You'd sell them away from it almost.
I downsold them away from the challenge.
Oh, I remember that. You came up.
Yeah, on a daily call.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I also heard behind the scenes about you too.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got this guy, he's in this franchise, he's doing it. We cannot get him to sell challenges. Yeah. He's like getting people through the door, but I'm like, look, I remember looking at the numbers. I saw your numbers. I'm like, what is going on with his front end cash?
Yeah.
I was like, his front end cash is so low. Like, what are we doing?
Literally no sales background on my end coming in. And that's when we were,
let's talk about that real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
Like no sales background. What do you mean no sales background? Like no sales training. Were you given training from the franchise that you were with?
No.
Okay, so there's no scripts.
No scripts.
No training. It was just so like you had zero background in this. Yeah. You're struggling to sell $29 a month in EFT. How much were you taking down when you'd sell that? The first month down?
No. We would do the first week.
$29.
$29.
Arm wrestling for $29.
Yeah.
Do you know what your close rate was back then when you were doing that?
No. No. And I mean, it wasn't. Was
it 50%?
Maybe 1 out of every 2 people. Maybe.
Okay. And then do you know what your churn was back then? Like how many you were losing?
I have no idea. My churn, no.
Okay.
We didn't track.
You didn't have
we didn't
that.
track those numbers.
You didn't track those numbers. I know. Which
you
was
jumped, You jumped me one time for that.
I did. I did. Okay, so sales, no sales training coming in, which I think the reason why I want to talk about this, I think is really important because I think there's a lot of, you mentioned this, and this is probably the biggest struggle I think for most people. Mm-hmm. It was for me, like thinking like, how in the world am I going to sell? And at the time when I was selling, it was $500.
Yeah.
It wasn't even $599. It wasn't $699. It wasn't
yeah.
$999, which is what you ended up selling it, right?
Yeah, $12.49 for the last time.
Yeah. So you went from $29
a week.
How long was the time span between you went from $29 a week struggling to sell that to $12.49 for 6 weeks?
Yeah. From that was my first full year in gym launch. So by about 12 months, that was after we broke 80, 90K a month. Mm-hmm. And then we actually tried, I was in on a beta in gym launch, a little testing sales thing, right? And we had done something else and we had run away. We got away from the beta and just went back to the normal 6 weeks for free. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not going to change my pricing and I'm going to see what it does. And I pitched $12.49 and closed it. And so I was like, it works.
That's a 10X.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like an actual, right? You were 120 a month.
Yeah.
And you 10X your front end price.
Yeah.
Same person walking in the building, right? You're
never tried a session. They never tried a session. They came in, filled out the paperwork.
No free class.
Sat down.
Nothing.
No free class.
They
no
cold. Didn't know you. It was not like a referral. Came off an ad, clicked.
We ran a free 6 week.
Yeah, free 6 week.
Free 6 week.
You took a free, turned it into $12.49, and then kept doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, so question though, why do you think how many of the gym owners that onboard that go to your roster in the past year have the same beliefs you did? That they can't sell that?
Oh, almost every one of them.
So basically 100% of them believe there's no way that they can sell that.
Yeah, like my market, we're the special snowflake. Like our circumstance is different because we're in whatever area. And then even some of the killers that come in are like, I don't know about that. Like even, again, you mentioned it. Me, I came in, I was like, no, it's not going to happen. Then you're selling something over $1,200. But yeah, the vast majority.
I think it's like you don't know what you don't know. I mean, for us, it really uncovered that I was not selling the benefit of the program. We were selling features.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
And selling scared.
Right, selling scared, right?
That's what I say that because that's what I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to lose the person.
Yeah.
So I'm selling scared.
Yeah. And they can feel it.
They can feel 100%. I'm desperate. I'm selling scared because I need the money, or I want the member, or I want to grow, or I want to feel like I'm helping people when I'm actually not.
Yeah.
Because then they're the one controlling the entire conversation. They're the one in the driver's seat. They're the one saying the price or demanding what they have, and having the objections and battling back and forth. And then me giving, I was terrible. I was so bad at sales prior to this, prior to gym
But
launch.
it comes down to a skill set thing, right?
You stacked it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the majority of people that come in are going to lack the skill set, whether it's like you're not as good of a business owner as you are later on down the road when you first start, right? Just because you develop the skill set. And once you learn the skill set of sales, Mike, to your point, that's when you go from, kind of selling the features as opposed to this individual's future.
Yeah.
Which is
you got to have a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means something. And I think there's, whether you call it a second, third order consequence of this or whatever, there's a certain point where after you sell at a higher ticket, right? There's something to the fact that when you charge enough, it's like the saying, if they pay attention. Mm-hmm. Whatever you're trying to achieve with this individual, with this client, they're more likely to adhere to whatever that guidance, that coaching is. Mm-hmm. So what happens? Now you have clients where it's stacked, literally the results are stacking. So then what happens there? You believe more in your product, if you obviously have a great product. And all of a sudden you got before and afters stacking up on your wall. And all of a sudden, it's just like a flywheel effect. But if you never actually take that leap and you never actually charge what you're worth, right? And you never feel the effects of what it's like when somebody puts 600, 1,000, 1,500. I never believed a large group fitness kickboxing studio could charge $1,000, $1,500, even $5,000 for programs. Yeah. We do. But it took a little while to get there. But I'll tell you, every single person that has a conversation with somebody in that gym about a $1,000, $1,500, $5,000 coaching package, the conviction in them, right, it's contagious because they know it works because they have undeniable proof. I will say, obviously, doing it the first time, it was scary. But is there any part of business the first time you do something, it's not, right? It's not a little bit. You got to take that leap.
You said something big there, though, and I think this could actually be an underlying thing. Is it's scary, but I think it's from the ability, like from the side that you don't think your product or your delivery of your service is actually to that level.
100%.
And
that's
which
where I
is
was
where,
gonna go.
Yeah, which is where a lot of gyms go wrong.
Which is interesting because everyone says they have the best thing,
yes.
but then when it comes down to it,
you charge
right?
$600 and you don't know if you have that.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
Well, I think it's the thing. Like you said, charging what you're worth.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't think anyone thinks that their stuff is actually worth
Yeah.
it. But they love to hear you should charge what you're worth. I did when I was like looking for stuff. Oh no, you should charge more for what you're worth. And it's like, oh no. And then I'm like feeling myself and I'm good. But then when push came to shove,
I don't even know what I'm worth.
It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can do that, because then what if I don't fulfill?
It's great because
what if I don't follow up? What the embarrassment, the shame of like, I just charged this person so much money and now all of a sudden it's like, I didn't fulfill on this. What if you start playing these what ifs and these stories, which are all lies.
Yeah.
They're all complete lies. But you go down this rabbit hole, right? Like Layla talks about, fear is a mile wide, but an inch deep.
Yeah.
Right. And like when you take that first step and you realize, oh shoot, like it actually isn't that bad.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Like how many people, I remember when I was coaching a lot more in closer to gym owners, and they're like, I just got I got a bad review.
Yeah.
And I'm like, welcome to the club. Have you checked out Disney's Yelp? They have like 3.2 stars.
Yeah.
It's the happiest place on earth. Go to Yelp. Look at all their 1 stars. It is brutal. Brutal. And they just keep getting raked over the coals. Look at every major company. You're not for everyone.
Restaurants.
You could do everything perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 5 stars across the board. Yeah. And going back, I want to ask you real quick though. So you said basically 100% of the gym owners that come in, you're a coach. You're coaching gym owners now. You've done it yourself. And I'm going to say this all out of love. When you started with us, from a business perspective, you were bottom of the barrel knowledge.
Yes.
And we've had this conversation, called you out in an IC Live.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be here. You're not really even an owner. You didn't know your data. Like, what are we doing? And it was kudos to you because you owned it, you took it, and then you completely changed, which is one of the many reasons why you went from mid $30,000 a month to $120,000 a month in 12 months, 14 months?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that's what I paid for though, right? The coaching side, to be told the truth, not just patted on the back every now and then.
Exactly. So the question I have for you though, as a coach, these 10 out of every 10 gyms that comes in, 100% of them, what do you tell them to help them break that belief that they can?
Yeah. I mean, number one, we look at the delivery and like, okay, well, what do you think your program's worth? And then they'll give a value on truly what they believe their program is worth, like in that moment. And most people just look at like the training aspect, right? Like our programming's great. And so all we do is break that down and we look at, okay, well, what if I could create an onboarding process for every new member that gets X, Y, and Z? Do you think that there's some value in that? And they're like, yeah. How much do you think that would increase your value of your program by? And actually, by the time we get through like walking through this process of like, what if we added this? What if we did this for the member? What if we did this? And if they got better results, what do you think? And they're like, oh, my program's worth $1,900 now. And it's like, now what if you sold that for $599? It's a steal. And boom. That's the process we want to go through is like, can I find this $2,000 pain point and get the gym owner to sell it to somebody for only $600?
Yeah.
And like, that's where it becomes like, that's when it clicks.
Yeah. So the frame of reference for them is just training. So they're just stuck here.
Yes.
Like it's right here and they just see this. And what you do is you expand their frame, the window that they're looking at, and you take just fitness out of it. You keep that, but then you start adding more and more, basically value stacking, offer stacking and all this stuff. And you're just basically stacking the offer and showing them all these different things. Do you get pushback from people on like, well, how am I, like, I can't add all those things. How am I supposed to do that?
Yes.
So how do you address that?
It's going to be, it depends. Every situation is going to be a little different, right? Which the majority are, the single gym owner is going to come in, they're juggling all these different pieces. And so then it's simplifying and saying, okay, well, what's our true constraint in the business? And so number one, if cash flow is tight, you kind of don't have a choice. You almost have to fix your onboarding process right then and there. I think from like you can call it time blocking, time study, whatever, but you find where you're wasting time at during the day and figure out if you can have these blocks of time to where you devote time and energy towards each one of those individual pieces to actually work towards the right onboarding process or any of that. But it's coming down to, okay, well, if you have a cash flow constraint in your business, then we've got to figure out a way to generate cash coming from brand new members. So sometimes you have to push through it though, and you just have to do it.
Do you help your clients with time blocking and figuring out where they should do that? So you coach them on that and actually
100%.
work through that?
Yes.
What
I was so bad at that years ago. Like,
Me too.
Think about who we were when we were like running our gyms. Like it was just like wearing all the hats, doing all. It's like, and sometimes you get through a day and you're like, man, what did I actually accomplish today? You know,
I would have
you know you worked hard.
I would have
You're
an hour or
exhausted.
two of time block that said admin, and I didn't even know what admin was.
Yeah, but it felt good to put it on your calendar,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but admin became lunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And lifting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And scrolling.
Yeah.
And doing some random email or basically just being reactive.
Run an errand,
Or
like
complaining-
lock up the gym,
Or
run
complaining that I don't have new members in the gym.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
taking a quick nap.
Yeah.
Power nap. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I did that so many times where I'd just be like, I'm going to take a quick nap, take a
Yeah.
15-minute power nap. And then I'm like, okay, back into something.
Yeah.
That was terrible. Like I was a horrible gym owner.
It just makes me think how many years, I don't want to say wasted because it's all part of the journey, but it's like how many years I was operating a business so inefficiently, and had I had the mentorship, the guidance, the coaching earlier, right?
You also had guidance too before that.
Oh no, I did. Yeah,
You've been in
And
other
it's-
coaching programs.
Yeah,
You've
and
been
it's not
in,
like I
like-
came in with no skills, but
Yeah.
it to say there was a difference, like it doesn't even explain it though. You know, it's like I understood a bit about pricing. I understood about, fulfillment, optimizing, some marketing and things like that. But to truly build an optimized business model, right, based on gross margins, based on inflows and outflows, what metrics should I be paying attention? Like that was all new,
Yeah. And
like
it's something we talk about all the time, like especially like y'all two will use the term a lot, ignorance tax. And I don't think people really know what that means sometimes. And they're like, oh yeah, ignorance tax. But that's like kind of what you were
exactly
explaining
what
there,
that
where
is.
it's like, well, I'm going to try it my way. And then you even see it on, it's funny, and you mentioned negative reviews. You see comments on social media and stuff where people are truly have no idea how to look at like an acquisition model. And they're like, I don't believe it. And it's like, oh, okay, all right.
I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I remember saying in my head, and this is before I hopped on that call with Kale, because he was a sales guy when I opted into Gym Launch and looking into it. I actually said, if a quarter of these things have some truth to them.
Quarter of them have some truth.
Yeah. Because I didn't believe they were real, but I'm like, it was such overwhelming evidence that there's something here better than, you know what I mean? That I was like, because I believed if I wasn't just average, I was going to be above average. And so it was just, there was overwhelming evidence there's a better model out there, right?
Just in case.
Yeah. But I do remember, like, I was even at the point where I'm going to join, and I still didn't believe all of it, right?
I could tell.
Yeah.
I remember I went back to the sales manager or sales director at the time,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't know. I signed this guy up. Took me 3 freaking calls, and he brought his manager on and all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, who actually owns this gym?
Yeah.
Like, who's the owner? And
Yeah.
then I was like, this guy's either going to absolutely crush it,
Yeah.
or he's going to be out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, I have no idea. And then you obviously demolished it.
Yeah.
Smashed it.
I mean, what did we do? I think we did like 26,000 in the first like 30 days.
Yeah.
But man, that was a wild 9 months. Ride
Yeah.
to 90,000 yeah.
What I'm curious about, like, because I want to talk about beliefs. I want to talk about all that stuff because I think, and setting expectations, I think for people when they come in, and I think it's really good to hear from you as a coach and a former client, right? So you still own a gym, which I love the fact that you still own a gym, and you don't even have to be in there. And I sold my gym in 2019.
Yeah.
So granted, I have ownership in a franchise now with Wolf, and I love that aspect. And like, I would love to open a Wolf here in St. Augustine and just prove everyone wrong and just be like, okay, cool. Kale can't run a gym anymore. Okay. Let's have some fun. If I had time, I don't have time. So, but like from your perspective, like with people coming in, what are some of the major, first of all, what's the number one goal that people have when on your onboarding calls with them and your first call and you're talking about goals, you're thinking about what is the number one goal that everyone has?
Oh,
Let's go goal first, because goal versus constraint or problem solve are different.
Yeah.
Right? So goal first.
number one goal would be getting more members. It's the number one goal they have. And it's most of the time it's going to be tied to a financial reason. But the funny thing is about that, when we talk profit levers all the time, is it's most of the time the number that they're working towards isn't the right number, because they have, it's what you asked about earlier, they have many other issues, whether it's capacity issue, too many sessions, or their pricing's wrong, or their margins are off, or a number of things. But most people's goal is, I want to achieve X members.
Why do you think that is?
The belief that everything else is fine, everything else in their business is fine. People just don't know enough about them yet, or they're not seen yet. And they think their pricing is fine, their delivery of their product's fine, which is most of the time we find out
Let's
later.
talk about that in a little bit.
Churn's a little higher, but yeah, so.
Do you think that it's like they believe that translates to a certain lifestyle, certain income, a certain...
more money, more income.
Right? There's like this belief. I remember it was like, if I had 150 or whatever, right? At a certain point, I'm like, 150.
We all had our targets.
Oh, I'm going to have the car I want. I'm going to have that, right?
Literally, 150 was my target.
Was it?
I just need 150. Because then I think at that point with my numbers, I think I was going to do $30,000 or $25,000 a month. And I thought that was a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I'll be good. It'll be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
I have this super vivid memory of staying on it was a driving range actually, with my buddy DC, years and years ago. And I don't know why I remember this so clearly. He's like, how's the studio going? You know, da-da-da. This is back when it was martial arts. And I was like, I'm telling you, when I get to 30,000, we're going on a trip. Like $30,000 a month to me was just the pinnacle, right? And I was chasing that for years.
And for a lot of gym owners, it is right now.
Yeah.
If anyone's watching this, or they get this clip, or they see this, like 30,000 is like unattainable.
Right.
For many of them. It's just like this dream goal of, if I can just get to $30,000 a month, everything will be great.
And for me, I remember getting there. And that's what it took for me to realize there's something off here. Because I chased it for so many years. And I got there, and nothing had changed for me financially. If anything, it was worse, right? Things were just more complicated. And I remember that was one of those moments where I was like, I need to start thinking differently, because this has been years and years of chasing this. Here we are. Bank account's empty. I'm tired, all this stuff. Right? And that was actually one of those motivations to like start to look into coaching and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's huge. So members is the number one thing that they want. What's the second most thing? Like second goal that you hear? So members is number one. What's the second?
It's going to be a byproduct of members in their head, but like they want more time back.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's what my guess would have been.
So they never say profit or revenue, very rarely.
But believe it or not, a lot of gym owners don't know their revenue.
Or their profit.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, even in onboarding calls.
Really?
Yeah, after they've signed up. And we do a numbers dive.
How many, question, this is really interesting. How many of the gym owners that you onboard, the numbers that were given to the salesperson are wrong? What percentage?
Above 50%. At least one out of every two.
So 50% or more, their numbers, did they inflate? Are they usually inflated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To the salesperson.
Yeah.
They tell the salesperson we're at X, and then when we do a little deeper dive in the onboarding, it's like, these don't quite match the notes of what they initially gave.
Do you think is it ego or just not knowing? Ignorance?
I think it's a combination of both. Like, you don't want to, naturally you hop on, a lot of these people have been in business 5, 10, 15 years, and you hop on this call and somebody's asking you about numbers, and they're like, they don't, it's like, I'm doing pretty good, and so they'll either just pull a number out of left field, or there's an ego thing. Like, you don't want to seem like you're not making it.
Which is interesting, because they're on the call because they want to learn how to grow.
Yeah.
It's hard to be vulnerable though.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Someone you don't know.
I mean, that's why I give kudos to anyone that hops on a call with us.
Yeah.
Like, period. It takes guts just to even be interested and to look at it, because that means that there's something inside of you that knows that there's another level, and you know that there's more to it.
Interesting that you brought that up. When we had the franchise, and we were initially in the office before we ever signed up at Gym Launch, and we were talking about the Gym Launch Secrets book, and he was like, did you ever read through this? And I'll be honest, I was like, no, I mean, we run a gym. I don't need to read a Gym Launch Secrets book. And so there's an ego that goes into that, whether some people are willing to admit it or not. But yeah, I was like, Alex Hormozy, Gym Launch Secrets. I don't need to read it. So yeah, there's an ego piece in there.
You told me the story earlier today, though, and then you cracked it open.
Yeah.
And then after you skimmed through it, what'd you do?
Yeah, so we actually went through, it was so funny. We read through kind of some of the profit levers sections. And for me, I was like, the money math made so much sense in the book. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking with my business partner at the time, and we're like, yeah, but how do we implement these profit levers? Like, they sound good on paper.
Right.
How do we roll this out now?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what led us to say, okay, well, let's go ahead and just book a call with the team.
Why did you sign up?
We were losing money.
But why did you sign up with Gym Launch? You could have gone with anybody else.
For me and for us, it was the one proven system that I had heard quite a few successful stories, and there's a couple bad reviews or whatever, but I mean, our gym even had bad reviews, and I'm like, okay, you actually spoke about that earlier. It's like, all right, some people just don't want to implement and they don't want to execute, and so I've been on that side of it as well. But we kind of didn't have a choice. We had to go with one that we trusted, that there was actual testimonies behind, and so we pulled the trigger on it.
What's the number one constraint? So we have goals.
Mm-hmm.
Goals are more members and then more freedom. So time freedom.
Yeah.
What's the number one constraint that you see? Like actual problem in the business besides gross margins? Because you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Like, what's the number one constraint?
I would say it's a toss up. Honestly, people either have a broken acquisition model or so it's a combination of their churn's just too high.
Okay.
And so too many people are leaving out the back door.
Let's talk about the broken acquisition model.
Okay.
Define broken acquisition and give examples.
Yeah. So if number one, you have a broken acquisition model. Broken acquisition model can mean a couple of things. Number one, if it's not profitable, that means you're actually losing money every month on your marketing and or your acquisition process.
What do you mean
that you're doing.
You're saying profitable. What do you mean? You have to define that.
Yeah.
Because like we say this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean profitable? The gym's profitable, or what do you mean?
Just on the front end. So like, let's break it
front
down.
end mean?
Yeah, just on the inflows of the business, new members, new customers coming in.
But they're spending money on. You're saying for marketing costs?
Yeah.
How many of them are actually running ads?
Very few.
30%, 25%, 40%?
I would say about 1 out of every 4. So you have 25%.
So 25% are actually running ads.
Actually running ads. And even if they aren't, you still have a broken acquisition model if your new members are not outpacing your outflows, your exits, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's one way that we can look at it. And then the other side is going to be, if you are marketing, am I getting a net positive return on money in, money out? And so if I spend $1,500 a month in marketing, sales commissions, agency fees, all of this stuff, am I making that and more back in profit? Mm-hmm. And so that's where we look at client financed acquisition, right? But yeah, the broken acquisition system is going to be less members than you're losing, and are you profitable? Are you making more money than you're putting into the marketing to acquire those new members?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but with a lot of gyms that I speak to in like the early stages, a lot of times what happens is gym owners work their face off and get to an equilibrium point, right? Where there's a point of diminishing returns where your 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever marketing dollars are going out the door, whatever you're doing around town, referrals, everything, it just gets to the point where your inflows match your outflow, just like you said. And so for some people, that might be 40 members, 30 members, 80 members. But for everybody, regardless of where it is, it's just so exhausting. And that's where it's almost like a software update, like you talk about. It's like, it's not about changing the whole business per se, but there's a few updates that you can make, right? With the way you price things, maybe the way you market, where all of a sudden, if you double or triple your inflows, your outflows, aren't just going to double or triple. And all of a sudden, boom, massive growth. And I think that's what I found. That's what this that's what gym launch, that's what I think we do uniquely really well, which is to figure out what is that update, not all of them at once, that if we do that, it'll unlock that next level of growth. But the thing is, it's going to happen again. There's going to be another point at which your inflows match your outflows, but maybe it's at 120 members a month, and right? And along the way, there's all different things that we have to address, but I think it really is as simple as, I think the most common situation that I see on the front is I got to this point, I was doing good, and now I'm just stuck. And I'm working harder, I want more time back, I want more money, I just don't know what to do next, right? And I think that the crazy part is it's not always the same thing, but there's always something that is right there, right? There's always something right there that we can just work on and update pretty quickly to just kind of almost shatter the glass ceiling.
It's twofold, right? When you create a profitable acquisition system on the front end, not only are you now growing the gym from a member standpoint, but you're putting more money in your pocket. And so you can actually solve two problems by doing this. And we kind of did it, and I'm not saying it's always the right way to do, but we came in and we were like, oh, this works so well. What if I just put my nose down and I just repeated successful actions for 8 to 12 months? And we went 35, 45, 55, 70, and we broke the $1 million rate within our first, it was either 8.5 or 9 months. Just by noticing how well it worked on the front end, I'm not going to get sidetracked, and I'm just going to focus on acquisition. And
the hardest thing.
Yes. Yeah. And so not only do you add more cash from brand new signups, you're talking about, there were months, we typically did between 25 and 30,000 just in front end cash from brand new signups. So not only are you now outpacing your exits with new members, but you're able to finally start stacking some cash too. And is that the only thing you focus on for the rest of the time? No, but it can actually solve two problems, a cash flow problem and a member problem.
Let's talk about, so I have a lot of things I want to talk about real quick on all of this. Inflows, outflows.
Yep.
That leads to something that we call figuring out your basically hypothetical max.
Yeah.
Right? And your hypothetical max, do you want to walk through that equation?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to figure out, because I think a lot of us have always been like, okay, well, how we talked earlier about our goal is 30,000.
Yeah.
But we don't do the math behind it. We don't ever think about, we just see the vision, which I love, right? As entrepreneurs, we're always like very optimistic, and if we could just get here, and there's the beautiful part, the positive side of the, if I build it, they will come, because we're so delusional as entrepreneurs that we think we can accomplish anything and that we can do it. And that's not, everything's on a spectrum, right? And so that's a good belief in certain areas, but it is a damaging belief to have in other areas. And so now with Hypothetical Max, most people want to know, where can I go? How big can my gym get based on what's happening because we have to base it off reality.
Yeah.
We can't base it off of, oh, I hope I get here. If I just get here without a plan, that's delusional. And I was delusional for years. I think we all were, right? Yeah. It's no, if we just keep doing this for long enough, we'll somehow, some way, I'll get to $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
Every business, if you think that, it's delusional. But there's math behind it. Yeah. And it's very simple. You want to walk through hypothetical gym max, how to figure out what your gym's max could be.
Would that be members
member
or
count
revenue?
First? Let's do member count first.
Yeah. You could,
which they translate the same thing.
The exact same thing, right? And so,
well, I think this is eye-opening. We can actually do the exercise right now. I'll pull out my calculator.
Yeah.
So let's just take one for example.
Okay.
Let's run through the equation, hypothetical gym max. Run through the equation, and then we'll do some math on the back end.
Okay, so this will be good for people to know too, right? If you're going to do this, you have to know, number one, what is my churn percentage? And so,
let's figure that out.
All right.
How would you define churn first?
So what you're going to track, depending on how you run your gym, most people kind of have a combination of the typical gym owner that's going to come in, they're going to have their recurring membership, whether you charge monthly, weekly, whatever. You're going to have a training pack, which is a 10-pack or a 20-pack. And then you're going to have a paid in full style for most. And so when you're looking at your churn, your actual members, this is going to be most times you're going to want to track your EFT churn for sure. Now you track each one of the buckets, but if we were to look at our hypothetical max, we want to know recurring members. And so the way you get your churn percentage is you're actually going to take your beginning of the month recurring members, and you take your total EFT or recurring exits at the end of the month, and you would take, for example, if we were to say you have 100 members to start the month of April, 100 recurring members, say 10 recurring members exited throughout the entire month, well then to look at what my April churn was, I would take 10 exited members divided by the 100 that I started with, and naturally that's going to give you a 10% churn, which will
show up as 0.1 if you did the calculation.
Yeah, which is a
10%.
10-month lifetime too, right? So yeah, that's 10% churn. The second piece that you're going to want to know for Hypothetical Max is going to be my incoming new recurring members. And this is a reality, a hard reality for some people. Is like when you first start to track this, you're going to realize that it's oftentimes a little lower than you think, but we want to know recurring inflows. And so if I were to look at April's recurring inflows and say that I signed up 10 people, just for easy numbers, right? If I were to sign up 10 new members in April, but I had a 10% churn, actually my hypothetical max would be 100, which is why, years ago, Alex used this horizontal asymptote to explain it. Or if you think of like shooting a gun, right? For anybody who may do that, you shoot, and as as the bullet, the projectile flies downfield, it eventually tapers off. And that's what you're going to run into too, where you may be signing up 10 new members, but you're also losing 10 members. You're never going to break past that 100 member mark if all I'm doing is signing up 10 and I'm exiting 10 each month. So you would take inflowing members, recurring, divided by your churn percentage, and that's going to give you your hypothetical max from a member count.
Yeah, really important to say is you're taking the absolute number of new EFTs.
Yes.
That you add the net new EFT, or the total, not net new, the total gross number of new EFTs added, divided by the churn percentage of your EFTs, not the churn number.
Yes.
And that's really important. So when we think about that, right, you can also take that a second layer where, okay, let's do another hypothetical instead. So you have 100 members and 100 reoccurring, or let's just say you're signing up 7 new people a month and you're only losing 5, or 5% basically. So 7 divided by 5%.
140.
140 is your hypothetical max.
Yep.
And let's just say right now your max you're currently at 50 members, right? But you're signing up 7 and you have 5% churn, right? Then your hypothetical max is 140.
Yeah.
Now you could play it out and you could figure out how much revenue you're going to make at 140. Because then what you do is you take your total revenue. You need to find your average revenue per member.
Yeah.
We're getting deep in the numbers real quick. So average revenue per member per month, ARM, right? So all you do then is you take your total revenue per month divided by your number of clients that are actually paying you. Now, if we were just doing EFT, now we got to go deeper. We got to look at just what's my reoccurring revenue divided by my reoccurring members. So there's lots of different ways you could do this. If we just stick on that, and let's say you're doing right now where your ARM is $150, take 150 times 140.
21,000.
Great. $21,000 is where you're going to max out at the current, if nothing else changes.
Yeah.
If everything stays the same.
Yeah.
But nothing stays the same forever.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have your up months, your down months, you're going to have all this stuff. The key is looking at trends over time. But then the question is, okay, if that's my max, that sucks. $21,000 a month, you're not going to be profitable. You may be a little bit.
Especially in today's society.
Not going to happen. The average gym member's net profit is 11%. And that right there is actually just below what the average gym does per month in revenue in the United States, which is abysmal. You can't live on that. So then the next question is, how do I change it?
Well, you have 2 options. You can either increase the amount of people that you're bringing on, or you can decrease the amount of exits that are happening.
Or you could do both at the same
time if you want to hyperdrive it.
Yeah. And then add on a price increase.
There's a fourth option. You could charge more.
Yes.
Right. So if you just charged more, technically, this is why pricing is so powerful.
I thought we were talking about hypothetical max.
Yeah. Makes now sense. We're going the revenue side, right? So if I wanted to change that, right? Because I think the key is everyone wants to talk about new members, but at the end of the day, why do they want more members?
Because they're not charging enough.
Right.
Because they're not charging, because they think that's going to get them to the number. They want more members because they want the money on the other side that they think they're going to get.
Yes.
And I say that because I thought that.
Yeah, we did.
But what if you don't actually need all the members? What if you could have both? What if you'd have a lot of members, change a lot of lives, and charge more? Because technically you could just, okay, what if we went from 150 to 196? Right? So 196 times 140. Went from 21,000 to
27.4.
27.4.
Yep.
Still not life-changing. Okay, someone's got to give. Right? So now it's like, okay, well, how do I change it?
Not life-changing, but you're still talking about an extra almost $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just from that one small move.
One little move.
We were
Almost
playing with the
80K.
numbers earlier at lunch, and it was like, it was crazy to think if you just change, there's a scenario, let's say you have a gym,
Yeah.
right? Correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers that we played out. But let's say you have a gym that's signing up 25 members a month, right? Nothing crazy. I mean, that's great for a lot of gyms, right? But let's just say 25. And you're at 8% churn.
Yep.
Okay. You're going to max out around 312, I think it was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And let's say they charge $149 a month. Okay.
Their arm is $149. Because if they say they charge $149, the average is probably around $100 after discounts and everything else. So let's just say
it came out, but the money came out to $46,000.
$46,000
like average.
Yep. Now listen to this. If they just raise prices by $10 a month.
10 a month.
A month, not a week.
Just a month.
Drop churn from 8% to 6%.
2%.
Okay. It's $250,000 of revenue a year. They go from 312 max on members to 416.
Yep.
Revenue $66,000 a month, right? So it's $20,000 a month
And
in
that's
revenue.
just recurring.
With just that $10 a month and the 2%
okay,
churn.
let's play the game real quick.
Yep.
That's a 25% decrease in churn, 8 to 6. That's a 25% decrease in churn.
Yep.
That's an increase of, from a percentage standpoint of, what is that?
7%.
7% increase in monthly revenue per member, right? Pricing wise. But it is a 50% increase in monthly revenue that you collect.
Yes.
Total. That's a 50% increase because you were at 41?
We were at 46, went to 66, so almost. Yeah.
Yeah, almost.
You're
50%.
almost at 50%. You're at 45%, 46, whatever that is. So like, this is why like these little numbers all add up. This is why like at Gym Launch we talk about the business model.
Yep.
Because the business model matters the most.
Yeah.
Like, also, by the way, if you have 400 and something members and you're only making $66,000 and you're a group training facility, something's wrong. Like something's wrong if you have that many members because your cost is going to be so high.
Right.
It's just not going to track, which is why it matters. Like knowing your hypothetical max, I think is something that every gym owner should know.
Yeah.
And like, this is why we have a calculator. If you want to know how big your gym can get, we have a calculator. You can go in, check it out. But the key is not so much, okay, cool, I know what that number is. And our calculator also includes, based on your current stuff, what your actual projected profit will be based on where you are now and your projected revenue based on where you are now. But then once you find that out, it's not so much cool, I know this, it's usually going to be eye-opening of like, well, shoot, I only have a little bit more runway. I'm only going to get to this. Okay, well now the question becomes, how do I change it?
Yeah.
And what do I do? And like you said, there's only a couple different ways. We can get more members, right? And we can get that through 4 different types of channels, right? Lots of different things. We can get more referrals. We can do warm outreach of people that post, or that comment, engage on our ads, our posts. We can reach out to people on our lists. We can do reactivation, old leads, all that stuff. We can post content to create more leads, or we can run paid ads across multiple channels. Like that's pretty much it, right? Because referrals, you can also look at affiliates. Like you can also do all that stuff. That's really it. Warm outreach also includes events. Like if you're going to go do an event somewhere, right? It's like the same thing. Yep. There's only those 4 different types of channels that you can do.
It'd be interesting, only because you said referrals, it'd be interesting to gauge how many people actually are getting consistent referrals every month.
The numbers that I have is the top gyms, the best gyms in the world. The best gyms in the world. Only 10% at best on a monthly of their 10% of their member base refers on a consistent basis. They will get a 10% of their total client base in referrals per month at best. So if you have 100 members,
that's a big chunk.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a huge chunk.
That's huge.
No, so that's the best gyms.
Right.
So like if I'm the best gym in the world at getting referrals and I have 100 members, I'm going to get 10 referrals. Now here's the key. I'm not talking about signups. I'm talking about
just makes
10
sense.
referrals.
Someone talking about your gym.
This is the key. Yeah. Now notice real quick. Here's a belief, right? You just said referrals. We talked about referrals and we immediately think it's closed.
Yeah.
Right.
And everyone else thinks the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's not true though.
It's not a referral. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
They should be, right? Because think about it, like how many times did we say, oh no, I close everyone? Like when we first started, I'm great at sales.
Oh yeah.
I close everyone. But it's like, those are referrals that were handed over.
Yeah,
but even
they're
then,
walking in sold
But even
already.
then, they're like, well, yeah, no, in reality, I don't know, it's like 70, 80%. Like, and it's like, okay, so we're still not even closing 100% of warm traffic
Right.
that's coming in that already knows us, likes us, trusts us via association with someone else.
But even then, 10% just being referred in, I would be interested to see how many gyms, if they actually like took it, if you were objectively looking at your gym and you said, okay, how many of my members actually refer an individual here every month? I actually think a lot of people are not getting referrals.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah, like nowhere near 10%, but I don't even know if they're getting anyone.
Well, so we talked about the acquisition side real quick, briefly, about how to get more. So lots of different ways, referrals, all that stuff. But let's talk about the churn side, decreasing churn.
Yeah.
I want to hit on something that's, I think, is really interesting. How you and I are like sticklers on this when it comes to the service itself. Yeah. I think, and this will speak to the people that are like, love programming and love like great, all this stuff. Remember, everything's on a spectrum. It can help you, but it can also really hurt you.
Yeah.
What you do on the floor actually does matter. What percentage, because I think this is really interesting. What do you have all your clients do?
Yeah,
so you can understand what service level they're providing.
Yeah, the majority of my gym owners, especially if looking at their churn, I'm going to have them send me over 3 videos. And so I always typically get like a 3 to 5 minute video of their warm up, however they do it, whether they just let people walk onto the floor, because some gyms do this actually. They allow their members to just warm up by themselves. But their first 10 minutes of their workout, or like 3 to 5 minutes, I get them to send me a video. I get a video of like the middle of the workout, 3 to 5 minutes, how the music's going, how the coaches are coaching, and see what the energy's like. And then the last video is always going to be how you perform your cool down, whether that's stretching, whether it's bringing people in, or whether you let them just kind of cycle off. But I get 3 videos just to kind of get an idea of how's the delivery of the product actually, like how are you doing on it?
Mm-hmm. What percentage of gym lords that come in that say they're great at what they do and their service is great, based on our rubric that we have of like an exceptional session, what percentage of those new gym lords are actually meeting that rubric?
1 out of 10.
10% of them.
Yeah. Actually meeting what I would say is a solid session or an amazing session.
Not even an amazing? You're saying solid?
No, solid.
Solid. Not even amazing.
No.
Okay.
What are they missing? Like what?
Yeah. Let's what are they missing? What's the problem in your opinion? And I'm sure there's lots. So let's break them down. What's the number one problem that you see?
So I'll say what the problem is not, which is a belief thing, and where I actually think this would speak to a lot of gym owners. The problem is not the programming. And so anybody who comes from a strength and conditioning background kind of has an ego, right? And whether you come from a background in CrossFit or, powerlifting, whatever it is, you feel like, man, I have so much experience and so much education that I can program the best workouts on the planet. And it honestly has nothing to do with programming. And it's all in like structure of your sessions, to be honest, and the energy of your coaches.
Yes.
It's like delivery of product, not the programming, structure, energy, and environment, and which could go to other things too, right? Some people average 3 to 5 people in a session. Do you think that's a high energy environment? Probably not.
That's a
whole
nother
level.
That's a whole different thing.
They call that large group.
They call it large group. And then they wonder why people don't want to do semi-private or anything else, because they're paying large group pricing for semi-private experience. Yeah. So when you see, let's break those into those 3 buckets you said. So like when you're seeing the videos, what's the number one problem that most people have in their warm-ups?
Warm-ups are going to be, there's no again, structure. There's no real structure to it, right? And so one of the things that we used to look at is we have everything from like a volume rating on where your music should be in the warm-up. And a lot of people don't pay attention to that. But remember, like this is probably the happiest they're going to be all day. Most people hate their jobs, to be real. And so when they leave work to make money to put food on the table for their family, they get me time for that 1 hour of the day, or 30 minutes if you're in a 30-minute session. And so it's like our job to put a smile on their face. And when they come in, depending on how high the music level is, do you actually have a structured warm-up that's going to fit their routine that day? I don't think a lot of people do. They just put people together and throw them through a couple little small warm-ups. But is your warm-up targeting your actual workout of the day? And is it fun and energetic? It's most of the time it's not.
And then what about the next part? When you look at the middle of the workout,
Lack of coaching, lack of personalization. And when I say lack of coaching, it's one of like ours was every person, regardless, I don't care if Kale was in there, and as good as you can work out, my coach still needs to give Kale 2 corrective cues. And
I'm
it's
not perfect. I hope I get. That's
and so
the
it's
whole
like
reason.
we need to go over there and be like, whether it's like even saying great job, hey, just remember this one thing, right? Because they're paying for coaching, they're not paying for a workout, which is a massive difference, right? If I wanted to just pay for work, I could find one online. And so it would be lack of coaching there.
We called it sharking.
Yeah.
Because a shark has to always go.
Yes.
And so it's like you have to be, I
gotta
know
be a shark.
everyone's like on the negative side of shark is like the negative, like, oh, they're a predator and all.
Yeah,
It's not that. It's you just can't stop moving and you have to always be moving. And it's the same thing. Every single, mine was not 2, mine was at least 1. So it was just, but I had 2 things, a positive comment, like an encouragement, and a corrective cue.
Huge.
So it was like, they had to get that. No, and every single person had to get that. Okay, so you have that. What is another thing?
There's something to sharking too. We talked like we would go deep on with training, which is you talk about energy, you talk about sharking, and I think there's something that we used to do that worked really well, which like they're the source, the trainer, the instructor is the actual true source of the energy in that room. And we used to like talk about how wherever you are, that's really truly where the energy is in the room, and why would you ever keep it from the other side? And so you have to keep spreading it through the room and you keep moving. So it's like we all had our own you know, ways of delivering it, but I see that like that's really what it's about, is making sure that they take ownership over like that experience, like you said, right? Like we used to use the term like be the best part of their day.
Yes.
Right. And everyone's a little different, right? You don't want to be up in everyone's face, right? Some people need that. Some people are like, yo, just chill. But when you know your members, right, which is a whole other discussion, right, you just know how to be the best part of their day.
Yes.
Right.
You know what's cool though about that? Is the people that aren't like that, if you have that type of environment, because you say you create that ideal client, right? One of the best switches on the planet is to have an Eeyore walk into your gym, sign up, and however many months down the road, they've not only gotten the results, but they're now a part of like the hype in the workout. And they're high-fiving, they're dapping up. They're doing the breakdown, because we used to do a breakdown, and cheesy, whatever. But we used to do the breakdown at the end of the workout. So like
the best.
They would be the ones like leading it and stuff. And so that's such a good point. It's awesome to see that flip in somebody, because you can create that environment for an individual.
Yeah. It starts with training your coaches to do that. One of the things we used to talk about is I used to drill into them, you own the room. The room is yours. But I was like, there's 2 sides to this. I said, when you own the room, you're the leader in the room, but here's what happens. As soon as you own the room, it's also going to highlight any insecurities you have, any self-doubt that you have, it's going to show up. And so you have to kill those self-doubts and those beliefs, and you have to go in and you have to own that room like it is literally yours. You own every station, every piece of equipment, every person that comes in, you know, and you are going to own the energy, you're going to own the flow, and you're going to run that class, and you're not going to let anybody else run anything on this. And like, which means that you're going to have to be ahead of everyone. You're going to have to understand what the programming is. You're going to have to know every single person's progressions and regressions of movements. You're going to have to know it. And it's like, then you got to go in confidently and you got to lead it. And like and that takes time too, but that also takes effort from the owner to spend that, which a lot of gym owners, especially if it's like a small team and you're drowning, like it's hard to think of spending time doing that. You're like, I just need a break. I need to do that. But going back to the program real quick, or like looking at this middle of the class, we talk about energy. We talk about that. Anything else on the middle of the class that you see?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's definitely going to be correct. Names, like calling people's name out, right? Like saying their names. Not enough people do that. You should be saying everybody's name. They love to hear that.
How many of them do that?
Oh, very few. Very few, if any. Most people, when I get like a video, you don't hear names on there.
It's fascinating, man.
Yeah.
You should be able to know everyone in that room by the end of the class, right? The session.
Well, everyone, when they walk into the class.
3-second greeting by name. That's what we always said.
It was 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is. You need, and physical touch in the sense of a fist bump or a high five, because you have to close the gap, which means you have to, when you say owning the room, it's your house. If someone you're having a party at your house or you're having people over, are you just letting the door swing open? Maybe for your family because you know it's them, but if you're having friends over and people maybe that you never met, what are you doing? You're rushing to the door to welcome them in and then give them a quick tour. It's kind of the same thing. I don't care how long someone's been a member. it's the best part of their day.
Yeah.
Go to them, high five them, fist bump, whatever it is. And it's like, you're going to say their name, smile like every time. It has to be something.
Yeah.
Creates that connection.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, I have videos still to this day. All my members, not only did we do that, say their name, I used to literally stick my camera in their face just because they would constantly talk about the wins. And I would shove my camera in their face and be like, what's a win for you today, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's huge for that connection piece.
What about the back end, like wrapping up the class? What do you see as the number one mistake that happens?
The number one mistake would be people the gym almost just fizzles out. It's like so anticlimactic. It's you get to this.
It's the Irish exit.
Yeah.
Everyone just does the Irish exit. It just
fizzles out and it's like just dead. It's crazy. Instead of bringing people together, and you're just missing out on so many things. If you think about from like the gym owner side, ascension opportunities, reminders of events coming up, and then just actually having a breakdown and keeping people tied in. But then on like the member side too, they need to be reminded of those things. And it's just a good way to finish the workout off. And they're like, yeah, but my people have, you know, again, same way that I would look at it from a sales perspective is we're definitely the exception. My members actually have work and kids to get home to. And it's like, dude, it takes 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. But you should definitely get your members together for some sort of cool down, breakdown, whatever, and give an announcement of some sort.
Yeah, I like it. What I want to hit some questions because I think it's really interesting I would love your take on these. And these are kind of questions that I kind of put together for people, you know, that may be wondering about Gym Launch. And I'd love for you to explain, or you both actually. I'd love for you both to do this because I think it'd be really interesting to tackle some of these questions. And because I think it's important because earlier on when we talked about this, and it's probably gonna be a clip so someone has no context of this, you know, we throw out testimonials of people doing $100,000 a month or $60,000 a month.
Yeah.
They're going from nothing to like Brendan, right? Brendan went from literally starting with us at $0 to now he's going to do 1.8 or he did 1.8, right? And it's just like from 0 to 1.8. People are like, I can't believe that. It's not possible. Yeah. And so I think a lot of it is managing expectations and also, you know, what happens if things don't go right if you're in Gym Launch, right? And I think it's really important to kind of talk about that. And I have like a list of questions. We don't have to go through all of them, but I'd be curious from your perspective when you're setting expectations for people, you know, someone's question might be like, what specific results can I expect in terms of increased client acquisition and retention for my brick and mortar, for my gym?
Yeah, so that one, from an expectation standpoint, first we have to break down what are you currently doing, right? Like what is your acquisition model set up for right now? How many members are you getting on right now? Your pricing structures and all this. But you also have to understand, like if your gym, your model is just broken, meaning you don't have any form of acquisition system in there, or you don't have a like any retention strategies installed, then it's going to vary. And you have to understand that some of this stuff, I like Alex's analogy on like being pregnant when he says some babies just take 9 months, right? And so naturally some people want to, they think that you can flip a switch and all of a sudden it's going to start raining members. But it's truly going to be based on whether you are in a position where you can start running paid traffic, or whether we have to look at it and say, okay, how many different organic strategies can we implement and test or try to work to start to get people in the door? Because on top of the paid traffic, which we know is like the best way just to scale quickly, but like people don't have organic strategies installed to actually consistently bring in members.
And I'd add to that, I think it's spot on that I'd say the gym lords that do, I don't want to say the best, but like, you know, are successful in moving towards their goals over time. I think there's two things that I see. Number one, they see that they have a responsibility, right, to actually, you know, do the work. That asking that question, I guess, I guess I see a trend in the gym owners that ask that question aren't owning the fact that there's a responsibility on them, right, to be the CEO of their own business.
They're expecting everything to be done for them, or an easy button.
Yeah. Right. And the ones that are really successful are the ones that see this as a partnership. It's like, let's get to work together.
Yeah.
And there's no conversation about this. It's just like, make the plan, do the work, right? And then the other part of this is patience, is understanding, like you said, some babies take 9 months, right? and they're just paying attention to the data, right? Keeping the head down. And something you said earlier is saying no to anything not on the plan, right?
You can't give specifics.
You can't.
Right? This question, and we get this. I used to get this all the time in sales. It's
Yeah.
like, what exactly? Like, how much am I? Like, how many exactly? Like, tell me exactly. And it's like, I don't know. Depends on how hard you work.
Yeah.
And
It depends if
typically
you follow the system.
Typically, you see the harder that someone's pushing for that.
Oh,
They don't see the responsibility as their own,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when they, and over time, we see it. The gym owner that does flip that switch says, you know what? Okay, I am going to do the work. This is my responsibility. When you can, like, when both sides work together, you're coachable. You're willing to do the work. I mean, sky's the limit for a lot of gyms. I mean, unless obviously you're coming up and you're already tapped out, but it's very rare, right? That somebody's already optimized.
Yeah, and the ones that can pivot too. You said something super important too, though. Is like when you look at it over a 12-month time span, some people have such an expectation on like this short time horizon. And if you really think about it, like you said earlier, what if something doesn't work? And it's like, well, that's why it's a bit of a longer game. And so
that's why we do 12-month coaching programs.
100%.
That's why we don't do 3-month or 4-month or whatever. We used to do 4 months as a front end, which just focused on one thing.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why we do 12-month agreements.
Yeah, because like think about it. You just said, what if there was a 3-month? Well, you've been in business 10, 12 years, 15 years for some of these gym owners. What do you think you're going to get done in 90 days? And so this always, for me, this goes back to, Alex had such a good analogy one time of the building blocks. And he's like, if I had these 10 blocks here and I told you to build the tallest building you can in 10 seconds, what would you do? And he starts stacking them horizontally. And as maybe 10 seconds goes by and there's like 5 or 6 bricks and it's swaying. I mean, this little 5-brick building is swaying. And he's like, but if I told you you had unlimited time and I wanted you to build the tallest building you can with bricks, what would you do? And he wiped them out. And he started back at the foundation. And some people, if you've been in business for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and you're not making money, there's a chance that your whole model's broken. And so what might you have to do?
Start all over.
Build that foundation.
You got to go back to the foundation, and it's not going to happen in 90 days. But if you look at the long game of what it is, like you're set up so much better in the long run.
So what do you say to the gym owners? Like, we're by far the most expensive. Coaching program, like by far the most expensive. So what do you say to the gym owners that are coming in that are like, I can't afford this. I can't afford for this to take that long. I can't afford. So same thing, like let's talk about client. We can use the analogy of client finance acquisition, right? The reason why most of the time it's broken is gym owners have people coming in, they charge too low. They're not profitable day one. They're waiting for the LTV of that client, the lifetime value of that client, the future revenue to kick in to make a profit. So they're hoping that happens, right? Same thing here, except they can't wait for that. So then what do you do then?
Yeah. Well, to answer the question, when you said, like, I can't wait that long, you can't afford, or I can't afford it. You can't afford not to either, though. And so if you do look at it.
Yeah, but Blake, I have rent. I got to put food on the table. I got 2 kids. I'm in debt. I'm 30 days in. And I'm not seeing any more money in my bank account. Okay.
Then we're actually going to take a deeper look and see what, from a coaching aspect, coaching hat goes on right here. It's like, are there any levers that we can pull to buy you time? Because right there, you need more time. From a business perspective, if you can just create some cash flow, maybe it's not going to lead up, or it's not going to come directly from like this brand new acquisition. But it's, can we create cash flow to buy you more time? Because if you think about it, and he would say this all the time, but like the cash flow is the oxygen to your business. So if I can at least get that cash to buy more time, we have more time to implement the strategies. Because worst case scenario, you still have to find a solution. So say you exit, okay, you have 60 more days now instead of 30, and your kids still need food. You still got to pay rent. So you still have to figure out a way to generate cash. And so that's where we would start to look at, okay, what avenues can we pull some sort of funds from through either like some internal plays or something that we call them plays, right? Through some sort of internal strategy or something like that.
The way I think about it too, from that perspective, if you think about it in regards to like a power outlet, right? And you're like, okay, I'm running a generator. I'm plugging, like, not even generator runs off gas. Let's say I'm running a my computer, whatever it is, right? I have to plug it in. I'm now using electricity. That electricity has a cost, but that's the power source. Without it, I can't actually do anything. I can't do my work. I can't do this. I have no potential growth whatsoever. Puts the lights on, whatever it is, right? It's plugged into a power source. Am I every day thinking about that power source that's providing power? No, it just happens to be there. And over time, I don't even think about the cost or what that power source provides. I only realize it when it's gone. Because when the power goes out and I don't have any power, what happens then? I have no hope. Because now I'm like, what do I do? Now I have to go try to find something else, an actual generator, to do it for a short amount of time. And I see gym launch in a lot of ways. And this is going to sound super egotistical, but this is what it was for me. And this is what it has been for thousands of gym owners, is the power source.
Yeah.
And you're plugging into the power source, but as soon as you unplug it, I can't there's countless how many gym lords have come back to us after trying so many different ones. And I don't say that as egotistical. I just mean because we focus on the business model and focus on these different, we have so many different plays, so many different ways to make money, so many different ways to keep members longer, so many different ways to do this. But like, you plug into that power source, as soon as you unplug, right? Now your power's gone completely.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
And for some, it's like a slow fade. But you know, you're trending in the wrong direction. Some it's a fast drop off.
Yeah.
But it's a great analogy. I just think, like, as long as
keep the power on.
Right. And as long as we are, and I truly believe this, the best solution to help gym owners optimize their model, right? Yeah. And so long as that gym owner wants to build a profitable gym, I'd always stand by what you just said, which is you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Right? Because what is your plan? Right? Because you can flow leads or new members into a gym, but for the most part, if you haven't been working on the model, the foundation, the pricing, right? Everything that you're doing, that's actually sometimes a faster way to close your doors, because you're spending money on marketing, right? And your margins are slim. Your operations get crazy. This is why how many times do we see people have worked with 3, 4, 5, 6 different agencies before working with us? Yeah. And then this is the first time they actually start getting profitable, right?
Or, I see people that have left us, right? And maybe they've made complaints about whatever. They saw growth, right? So they saw a lot of growth. And then they leave because they're frustrated about something. Or maybe we dropped the ball on something because we're not perfect, right? Sure. Then they go to another agency and they work with another agency and then they get a quick win. This is my favorite. It's not my favorite also because I want to see gym owners win. But they get a quick win and then I see a testimonial for that agency from the former client. And then I check back in and I'm like, 2 months later, and now they're with another agency. And now they're with another one. And now they're with another one. And it's like, these are Band-Aids. This isn't going to fix your problem.
Right.
More members aren't actually going to fix your problem. Yeah. It's going to help solve one of them, but you have lots of problems in a gym, right? It's not going to, getting more leads is not going to solve your problem.
The constraint is a few layers deeper, or it's in another part of the business.
Yeah, it's peeling back the onion.
Yep.
Right? There's different layers to this that we have to solve. And going back to the brick analogy, like the wall, like the building, it's like brick by brick, it has to be built. And sometimes we do have to cut off a couple. We have to maybe take the second floor out and rebuild it from the second floor up. Or sometimes we have to just wipe it out from the foundation.
That's such a good point. Like, even if you hop around from, whatever somebody feels like is the best route for them, so be it. But like, going back to that point, that's so important. More leads is not going to solve your problem. And it's so crazy that that's the main reason I would say a lot of people do come in. We talked about the main goal of some people coming in, but it's like, it doesn't matter how many leads. Say you're like, oh, that's too many hard conversations. Either I'm not at the right price, or I allow my members unlimited, or I need to cut sessions and I don't want to do that. And you don't like the coaching or the structure or the systems to put in place. And say you do just hop and go to another agency. More leads is just going to prolong your exit. And so you're still gonna drive people in, you're still gonna have exits going out the back, but until you decide that I'm gonna sit down and fix my model, go through the hard, like put your nose down and say, let's fix the business, you're gonna constantly run into those issues.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a couple more questions on this. I think we can get through a lot of these. And it's really good to hear, because a lot of times I'll sit on here and I'll say them, but I'm the CEO.
We get little clips from
I think it's really good if you hear from you as a coach, right? And you, because we need more content from you.
Yeah, I know.
So it's so let's go through a couple others. So who's our ideal client in terms of gym size, number of existing clients, and current revenue range?
I would say, number one, brick and mortar, right? If you're an online fit pro, like we love you, but like that's not what we focus on. Yep. And while you can look at all the different metrics and everything like that, I think the biggest thing is it's the mentality of the client more than anything. It's the type of gym owner that's coachable. We talked about this earlier. Are you coachable? Do you have an open mind? Are you willing to trust the process and be patient, do the work? Understand that a business is not built, right, in a day or even 3 months, right? And understand it's going to be hard. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure if you said this to me, somebody in early days, it's like, what's the hard conversation you want to have? Is it with your wife because you got to close down the gym, right, and go get another job? Or is it, it's like choose your heart at the end of the day, right? Oof. Business is hard, right? And so I think there's a lot of ways to answer that question, like who's the ideal client? But it's a gym owner who is committed to doing the work and understands it's not just going to be handed to them.
Yeah, because it's hard for us to nail that down. The reason why is because we have so many stories on both sides. We've got the gym owner that's come in that's doing $60,000 a month and wants to scale, doesn't want to do the work. They have everything set up for them. We just need to tweak a couple things and they can easily get to $100,000, $120,000, $150,000, and they don't. Yep. But then you get the gym owner that comes in, one man, one woman show. They're doing $5,000 a month, $10,000, or just started, and now all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're doing $100,000 a month.
So true.
Right? And I agree. It comes down to being committed to growing the gym. 100%. I'd be curious your thoughts.
Yeah, it's for sure going to be a brick and mortar for the most part. I don't know that I actually don't even know that there's a member count on there. Mike, a lot of what you said was really good there. Being committed to the growth, looking to make an impact, understanding that number one, business just isn't easy. Yeah. And like the big thing that most people need to understand is there's not a cookie cutter approach to growing a gym. And so, yes, business is as simple as simplifying it down to inflows and outflows. That's about as cookie cutter as you're going to get. But then other than that, you're going to have a slightly different model. And so it's coming in and understanding that there's going to be some strategies that you may implement. It might not work in your market initially. It may not, and that's okay. You make a pivot. But as long as you come in, you are willing to have the hard conversations. You don't have to be loaded with cash and, have a crazy amount of members. But if you're looking to make an impact in your community, you want to grow the gym, and then you're willing to implement strategies, you're able to make a pivot if you need to. A lot of it's going to come down to like headspace, like head capacity, being coachable. You talked about it a lot earlier. Those things are bigger than any like actual business metric. And if you're willing to put the work in, then we can help you grow the gym.
Yeah. I will say there are some that we definitely won't work with. One is like if you are not willing to run some sort of fitness program.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
or
weight loss,
like transformation or something. Like for Gen Pops, like if you're not willing to have that, if you're open to starting one, that's fine, but you need to actually start one.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is we can help some outdoor like boot camps, but like it's got to be in the southern part of the US or in a place where it's generally sunny and great weather. Otherwise it's in my opinion not a good model.
You can't do 6 months of cold.
Like mobile.
Yeah, mobile.
Probably
we don't. PTs, personal training businesses. Like if you're mobile personal training, like we can do personal training studios, but not like just a personal trainer. Yeah. We also don't work with. The other thing would be, I would say, if you have a gym at your house, like a garage gym, or the building is at your personal location. And the reason why is because we have found that it is very hard to get people to show up for those, just simply because it's your house. And you have a max capacity. If you're a garage gym, you have a max capacity. Right. So like to be real, straight up, the ROI on ours, you would get an ROI, but the ROI is not going to be the same as anyone else because your actual capacity is so limited. Right. And we only have a few levers to pull. We got to increase price a ton for the few amount of people that you're going to bring in. Okay. Also, I have my own personal beliefs around security and everything else because we're running traffic. We'd be running traffic for people to show up at your freaking house.
That's the thing. It's like they got to the point where they are, right? So maybe there's a belief like this could be successful. You have people showing up. But when you turn a paid ads acquisition system on, that's a totally different game.
Totally different game.
Right? And we start people looking you up, hey, what's this business, and it's in a neighborhood, like it's totally starts to break down. So
yeah,
which is interesting, and that's kudos to you on that. Like that's because there is actually a system like that, but to look out for the actual gym owner and be willing to say, okay, we're not going to work with you in that aspect from a security spot. Now we could help us grow this company. Mm-hmm. You could join because there is an individual.
We could take the money.
That yeah.
But it's not going to help them.
Yeah.
Like it's also not in their best interest.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I look at too is some international countries.
Yeah.
And I look at international countries because I look at the exchange rate and I look at the currency in which they're making and I look at the ROI and I'll just be like, it's not worth it for them.
Right.
Because the price that they're going to have to pay us is they're going to have to sell so much more just to break even due to the exchange rate. Mm-hmm. Like there are certain countries around the world where it just doesn't make sense. And I tell our team, no, just let them know. Like
again, you talk about like unbelievable things though. We do have a gym owner though that scaled to 65, 70,000 a month, and now she's getting a second location out of her backyard.
Oh, right.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a perfect example of how we also don't believe in the exceptions to the rule.
Exactly.
True. Right?
Yeah.
And so like we believe like it's very few people that are going to do that.
Yeah.
She also came in because she wanted to do online.
Yeah.
That was the whole
this
reason
was a
back
step
in hybrid, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like, and then we were like, no, stop. I still remember that IC Live. And we told her, like, you can get to $60,000, $70,000 a month out of this location. Why are we doing this online? And then next thing you know, she gets to $60,000, $70,000.
And I think she was charging something like $899, right? Something like that. And then we went to $3,000.
They did. Like I'll tell you this much.
Was it?
All I know is in January of this past year, they did over $60,000 in front end cash in brand new sales alone.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Insane.
Unreal.
Crazy. Okay. What does the implementation process look like for setting up our agency, lead nurture campaigns, and I know we have like an AI messaging system that we have. What does that look like?
What I think we take a lot of pride in is the fact that we take time to get to know, your area, right? Mm-hmm. Your gym, what offers you've run, because most gym owners that have been in business for a while have either run their own ads or they worked with somebody, right? And so a little bit about what you like, what you didn't like, what did work for you, what didn't work for you. And we want to be able to take the time to do that first, right? But then after that, what we do is we actually do a deep dive in and do some like market demographics, research. And what we'll do is we'll come back after actually a deep dive and actually present like a marketing briefing, right? To be able to say, hey, based on just, what's going on in your area, the gyms around you, what we've seen work and be the most profitable, here are a few different offers that we think you should run. Let's look through them together, right? And I think, and this is just, something we've talked about recently, I think almost to a fault, we stood by certain things that we believed in so hard for a long time that it was almost like, hey, go do this, hey, go do this. And even though we knew it could make money, I think there's some truth to like, even as a gym owner, wanting to first off understand and fully believe in what you're doing as like from a marketing standpoint. And so we've made these updates in the way that we actually build marketing for gyms. And I think it's a huge improvement over what we did before, is to be able to just like build the right campaigns, the right messaging, so that it really represents gyms in a way that they're proud of, right? If that makes sense. I explained that well, but that's like the newer.
Yeah.
That's like the newer process that we're putting in.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because when I think about this question, if you had talked to us, even we've known that there's been problems. So let's talk about the elephant in the room right now. Like what would you guys say is probably what is probably the thing that we can do much better at as an entire company?
Help people get lower lead costs from a paid traffic standpoint, but then from a collective organic and paid traffic, help them get higher number of leads in the door.
Yeah.
So more leads in door, and then when you're running a paid traffic, a lower cost per lead.
Lower cost per lead and more leads in the door.
Yeah, and also just customizing the marketing to fit their gym. I think it's a big step.
So number one thing that everyone talks about.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's just talk about it, right? So number one thing, everyone's like, oh, is this another 6-week challenge? Oh, it's like
cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter.
Right.
They fit you into a model, and I don't like their sales tactics.
Yep.
I don't like what they teach. Like they have you doing this stuff and all this, right? So the sales side is different. Like we've gone through so many different updates on sales. Like
right.
It's beyond different. It's insane. It's not even close to what it has been, and it does even better now than what it has in the past.
Yep.
The thing that's really interesting is, we get that feedback. You can read the reviews. Like there's tons out there that people talk about this. And I would say that I personally, as CEO, I would say that I think we failed in changing faster and adapting faster. And I will say this, it's not that it wasn't for a fact of trying different offers. We've tried and tested a lot of different offers. We still do today. However, I think the biggest thing is the back end model of fulfillment. We stuck to the same thing. Is this 6-week challenge dead? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Does it work in every single market? If you've run it for the last 5 years,
right,
or you have 2 other gyms in your area running it, is it probably the best thing to run?
Maybe not. Maybe it still is.
Maybe not. It depends, right? And this is where it goes back to, I think for us, we did kind of fit most people into this because of the fact that we could get people live really, really fast, and we had a system. And this system works. It does. It just to what degree?
Right.
And so we've addressed that. And this is the thing, I think that's where everything is changing and very different, and where we are moving to is this sort of kind of diagnostic approach to and personalizing this to your actual gym, which I think will be a breath of fresh air for a lot of people to understand. Like this isn't the same gym launch from 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago. This isn't the same gym launch from 2017 when I started as number 13.
Same, yeah.
Right? It is not the same. And there's a reason for that, because the marketplace changes, things change. We need to innovate. We need to get better. And the cool part is like we don't have to lose the effectiveness. We're not going to lose the effectiveness of gym launch itself or the system,
right?
Because the model stay the same, and the model is client finance acquisition. We have to be profitable on our acquisition. Now, there's lots of different ways to do that. We can get leads through different types of offers, front end offers, trials, 3-week, all the way up to 12-week, right? You could run a 7-week. You could run a 45-day. You could run a 47-day. Who cares? Like it doesn't really matter. What matters is, does it work in your marketplace?
Or even a trial.
Run a trial. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Free class. Like free classes work.
And being able to actually have a simple sales system that we've proven over and over again, that no matter whether you're doing the free trial, whether you're doing a high ticket, whatever the ad is itself, to be able to have a simple conversation with somebody when they walk in the door, to be able to sell them into whatever your business needs and whatever is best for them, right? And I think what's great about that new sales process that people are using in the community is the fact that whatever season they're in as a business, if you need the front end cash, if you want to scale your EFTs, if you want that balance, you can just use this simple sales process, and it doesn't matter what ad or offer you're running, your operations don't change, right? And then but to your point, not the old gym launch, right?
Yeah, it's not the old gym launch, but I will say this for when we talk about this, like the process, right?
Yeah.
You can't just make your own offer. That's not how this works. If you join Gym Launch, we are not a custom agency. Like we don't create your offer for you, because to be real, if you knew what offer you should create, you would have already made it and you would be successful.
Yeah, great point.
So we already know the framework of what needs to happen, right? So you get to pick within the framework, and the options are really endless, but through the diagnostic approach of understanding your market, and we don't mean market in regards to like, oh, my market's different and like I need to charge less and all. No. We're still going to charge as much as we possibly can. I don't care if it's a 3-week, let's charge $9.99 for it. I don't care. Like whatever we need to do. What I mean by that is, okay, who else in your area is running ads, and what is their offer? Okay, cool. If no one's running 6-week and no one ever has, and you haven't, we should probably start with 6-week.
And even with like the personalization standpoint, right? Not to miss out on that. Because a lot of times historically what's happened is, even though we knew like for the longest time, and maybe still to this day, to your point, maybe not, maybe the 6-week is the best offer, but there were so many like ads that would be so similar in style, maybe in a similar marketplace. But now the efforts and all that the team's putting in on the front end to know your business, get your images or something like that to personalize the ads to your gym, that goes a long way. And it's completely different than anything that we have done historically, which is dope.
And we're seeing higher schedule rates, higher show rates when you have a bit more of a personalized, presence, right?
Yeah, it's recognizable.
And you combine that with an organic strategy, like you mentioned earlier. I think this is a great time for gym owners, right? Because especially as we move into AI, and we're able to start to either arm gym owners with new tools or be able to do things that maybe we couldn't do at scale before, to be able to get, everyone talks about like an omni-channel approach and things like that. That's a little maybe over the top for a gym owner, but to be in multiple different places and actually have fishing poles in the water and not actually have to, spend the same amount of time to do it. I think in the next year or two, you're going to be able to actually drive CAC down, whereas the cost, CAC for you guys listening is cost to acquire a customer. But I think we're at that point where for the last couple of years, we've been seeing it rise, right? And I think the gym owners that really that lean into marketing and lean into the tools available, this is a huge, like they're poised basically for the next year or two to be able to grow.
And you have to be.
Yeah.
Just because of where the market's going, the costs of everything else for you to run your business are going up.
Mm-hmm.
And which means from a member standpoint, they're holding their dollars closer to their chest. So you've got to figure out a way to help you reduce your cost to acquire a new member.
So true.
And you've got to have a process and a system in place to be able to get, not from like a bad standpoint, but you've got to figure out a process and install a system to get the most out of that member when they sign up for your gym, to make sure that you yourself don't struggle from the financial standpoint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you walk through, I think one of the bigger questions is, what is it like to work with Gym Launch? And I think it'd be really interesting if you walk through the first 4 weeks. What does it look like for someone?
Yeah.
You both can chime in on this. And obviously we have our updated process.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be good to give an idea of like what that looks like.
Well,
what can I expect?
So obviously, we're going to, the first step in working with Gym Launch is an onboarding, right? A deep dive onboarding. Like the number one thing is for you to meet your coach, right? So whether it's Blake or anybody else from the team, to really spend an hour together just to get to know your business. Number one, we're going to do deep dive on like, hey, what are your goals? Where do you want to go, right? Now, that might be multiple locations. It might be just getting a little time back. Whatever it is, that's your vision, right? And our job is to do everything we can to then make that plan, right? Now, to make that plan, we've got to look at the numbers, right? To know, like, can't make a plan if we don't know where we are. So then we're going to deep dive, hey, where are we at? We're going to look at all the different KPIs. We're going to look at, okay, from here, maybe it's basically it's getting a clear picture on where is the business at today, right? From here, we're then going to start to do some work on the actual game plan, okay? So now that we set long-term goals, your coach is actually going to set some short-term goals as well, right? Because we're going to basically chunk it out. Now, to get there, generally the first step is going to be to build an acquisition machine, right? Now, every once in a while, we do have gyms come in. Acquisition is not the constraint, but for the most part, it's the number one constraint, right? And so after your first meeting with your coach, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to work with our agency team. We're going to actually look at customized offers, okay? Do some market research, figure out, all right, what's the best offer or different types of offers and things that we can deploy in your marketplace to get more eyeballs, to get more interest, right?
Is that just, do we pick just one or is it multiple?
No, we're going to do multiple offers, right?
Do we run them all at the same time?
No, so it's like a hierarchy, right? So we'll build like a hierarchy list, right? Top 1, 2, 3, 4 different offers, and we're going to bring them back. We're not just going to run them. We're going to present them to you, okay? To be able to say, hey, based on our market research, based on your services, what you're uniquely great at, what you like, don't like, here's our suggestions on what we should run, right? Also, walk through, hey, this is kind of the mousetrap attached to that, right? So that you have a clear picture of like, if we run this, what does it look like when I talk to the person, they walk in the gym, and how do we make money from it, right? So from there, once we're clear on that, we decide that together, we're then going to have to actually set up some automation, some softwares to make it easier for you to be able to deal with those leads coming in. Because when we turn that machine on, right, in general, you're going to have more leads than you used to, right? Whether it's 2 a day, 3 a day, 10 a day, like kind of depends, right? So from there, after we get the marketing briefing, we're good to go. We're actually going to do a little handoff to our agency team, right? So that you can actually show up and see who's going to be running my ads, right? And they're actually going to be able to help build out the software to help you there. And I know you can kind of chime in on this next part here, but the next one is actually really interesting because I think, so in our portfolio, right, in Gains, we have multiple companies. One is Prestige Labs, right? And there's a supplement company. And what we find is there's a huge opportunity for gym owners to be able to get their clients better results, right? Increase LTV, and also liquidate their marketing costs if they actually sell product as well as service, right? So that would just mean selling, supplements, protein, things like that. And so when you see that opportunity in somebody's gym, it's the perfect time when you're about to turn on the acquisition machine. Hey, we're going to be signing up new customers. We should probably get that system set up inside of your gym early, right? So inside week 1, 2, we do a handshake so you can meet our Prestige Labs team, right? So we can install what we call the 2-step sales process so that you can sell service for these, to these customers, but also on top of that, be able to provide products that are going to help them, right? So this all generally happens in the first 10 to 14 days. And then generally there's going to be more of a, almost like an ads prep call, right?
Yep.
To really make sure that we don't turn ads on for a gym without making sure that we actually audit all of the processes, right, that are happening within the gym. Make sure everybody has the right training from a lead nurture standpoint, from an operations standpoint, so that if we are going to launch some ads, that everybody's fully ready, whether it's the owner, the manager, the trainers, anything like that, for this kind of new inflow of members, right? And this is generally the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
You said fully ready. I think it's important for people to understand you probably are never going to be fully ready.
Yeah,
So don't ever expect that.
Yeah.
And if you wait for that, you'll never start. Because
Yeah.
there's a reason why you're not growing. And it's like, no, just press go.
Yep.
It's just how much preparation do I have? Remembering that also the best training is actually doing the reps.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the best experience gained and lessons learned is from doing the reps.
Yep. Yep.
Right? So ads.
No,
when do we like to have ads live?
It's got to be right for the gym owner, but usually we see 14 days is like a great target, right?
Yeah. Which is funny because we could technically have ads live in 72 hours.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, we're built and ready. It's more about making sure you're comfortable as a gym owner, right? In terms of what does this offer? What am I going to do with the leads? When do I talk to them? How do I use the software? And also, most importantly, how do I sell, right? What's my pricing? And just making sure that you're really ready from the fulfillment aspect of like, what am I selling? And also, how do I fulfill on this customer in terms of like the sessions and things of that nature? So, and sometimes it's really not a huge adjustment to a gym. It just usually is, even if you're not adjusting operations much, but if you're 2 or 3xing lead flow, right, that alone needs a little bit of planning, right? And the last thing we want to do, like business is hard, business is stressful. The last thing we want to do is, have any unneeded stress or anything like that. I think the overwhelming feedback that we get is it's overwhelming when someone comes in a gym launch, right? And I don't think there's really any way to ever I don't think we can really reduce that or take that away.
We've tried.
Because we've tried so many times.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's at the end of the day.
Because anything new will be overwhelming.
And to build a business is fucking hard. It's hard.
It was overwhelming to build a broken business, for those of you listening.
Yeah.
For me, it was overwhelming. A broken business was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I was working just as hard and feeling just as overwhelmed with losing $3,000 to $4,000 a month as I was with profiting $10,000, $15,000 a month, right? So it's like same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't mention is any of the community. I mean, there's so much more to.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more. We haven't even gone through the first month either.
Yeah, but that's good though, right? Like it's part of trying to reduce overwhelm, which you said there's like setting them up, because when we get baseline metrics, we get an idea of where you're at. Cool. Then we plan. We have like a strategic planning session essentially with your coach, and we're like, okay, let's build this offer out, because now we've got to create something on the front end, because all it comes back down to is we could say we were talking about inflows and outflows last time. You can either increase the amount of members that you're getting, or you can make them worth more. And you touched on 2 pieces there. It's going to be the fulfillment of like your new onboarding process. And then the upsell, which would be a supplement sale, is making your members worth more and making them stay longer. And so if we can just focus on that, which is why it's the main focus, at least in the beginning, in those first couple weeks, it's like, cool, let's nail down this acquisition piece and make sure fulfillment's there it's promises made, promises kept, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have expectations we typically set 30, 60, and 90-day goals from there to make it super easy and say, okay, you're not going to be perfect at this at first. So your 30-day KPIs or your target points from a lead nurture and closing standpoint is going to be different from when you're 3 months in, and then 6 months in, and then 9 months in.
I'll even add too, and it's not for everybody, but it's pretty common that through that deep dive onboarding process, we recognize an area or two where we can go ahead and make some cash now, like within the first week or two. And a lot of times that'll pay for somebody's marketing or even the cost of the program for the first 2, 3, 4 months. And
or
again,
the whole program.
Or the whole program. Yeah. We've had people make, either $5,000, $10,000 all the way up to $70,000, $80,000 from those plays.
How much? Over 120 grand.
Yeah. In the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
First week.
Yeah, first week, first 7 days.
Yeah. So, and that's important too, is because, when we want to make sure that we talked about client finance acquisition earlier, is that as soon as possible, we want to be able to install not just a marketing engine, but a client financed acquisition engine, such that every member that walks in, right, or the way your business operates is probably a better way to say it, right? You're not coming out of pocket, right, paying for your new members, right? And so a lot of times we can jumpstart that with a play or two, right? Strategic move and offer something to either current members or the public, where all of a sudden you're making, thousands of dollars. And that's a big thing, because I think there's a lot of gym owners out there that have a belief that maybe they can't afford to work with Gym Launch, right? Or they can't afford to work with the strategic coach or anyone that they need to. And the truth is, if they're really good, they'll show you, right, a way to be able to pay for, right, the program, or at least part of the program. Because if you have a business and you have customers, you can almost always make money out of thin air, so long as you can offer something valuable to them, right? And I think that's one of the most important pieces that we do for people, because we said it earlier, cash is just that oxygen, okay? Yeah. And so we want you to be able to breathe, all right?
Which is where it comes down to, just to call that out, because every now and then it goes back to maybe a review, right? Oh, I used my members to get some cash. Okay, well, if you don't burn through it and go out and buy a new Mercedes or something with your cash, it's there to set you up for long-term success, right? Because in most instances, when we look at your business, I'm not going to run, for the most part, number one, if you have 2% churn, you're probably not coming to us, because you're probably really good and set up anyway. But most times, say a gym does come in with 2% churn, are we going to run something like that? No. Most times,
it doesn't make sense mathematically.
Exactly. And so most times if you run a play like that, you're actually helping yourself reduce churn while stacking the cash in your bank account. And then that's where we can step in as a team and even help you with the money management side of hey, these are the 3 areas that you need to store funds to protect yourself long term, so that you can at least set your strategy up in place to build the business out that you're trying to build. And so there's sometimes you may read a review or a comment and they're like, that was my members. How did you burn through 30 grand in 14 days?
Right.
And so it's we'll help you set that up, but it's so good because it does buy you time to install that strategy.
Well, what about the people that are like, well, I used that money I extracted that cash from my members. Let's be transparent. It's a paid in full play with your members. Yeah. But we structure it in a way, or at least we tell people to do this. And there's people that go outside of this and sell way too many members on this. You should never have more than, in our opinion, 20% of your members on a PIF. And the reason why is, it doesn't mean that you can't. It's just most people struggle to manage their cash and their revenue and recognize it over time. Most people think, oh, cash in hand, I can just go spend it and I have it. Technically, you could PIF everyone, but then you'd have to manage it like you do on a monthly basis and break it out. So anyways, you run that PIF and you have the people that are like, well, I took that and they want to just use it to pay for Gym Launch. I didn't use it because I didn't use it for anything else. What do we say to that?
It depends on the situation you're in. Honestly, in some instances, it does make sense, because if I can reduce expenses, now what you don't want to do is go in and pay off your credit cards and all of these things, because you're going to break this down. And we actually even have a profit lever section on this, the bonus profit lever enhancement. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through and you look at strategic and non-strategic expenses. If you have a strategic expense that you can severely reduce the amount of money that you're paying on it, it actually is not a bad idea if you're in a financial position to do it. So depending on the gym owner that's there, when we get the cash, we look at it. If it makes sense for you to do it, you might be able to take advantage, because you'll save a lot of money if you do pay for the Gym Launch program in full. And so it's a substantial amount of money that you can actually save on that, and it sets you up for success long term.
Well, here's a question I would ask if I'm a gym owner. Is it reasonable to believe that if you came in and within the first 10 to 14 days, you made enough money to pay off the most expensive gym business coaching program in the world, You made enough in 14 days to pay it off for the entire year. And if that coaching business helped you collect that much cash, regardless of where it came from, it's reasonable to believe that probably for the next 50 weeks of that program, they could probably make you more.
They'd probably do it again.
Just off one play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think they could probably do it again? They could probably make a little bit more money?
Yeah.
It seems reasonable to believe.
Right.
Right. And so for those of you that are like, because there are reviews out there, they're like, oh, use our client.
Yeah.
It goes back to patience.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You know what's funny? Yes, patience. Talk about that. Think of it as this way. It's a 0 interest loan, if you think about it, from your members, but no one balks at, we're getting in the CRM space. No one balks at going out and getting a $70,000 loan from ABC.
Yeah.
No one balks at getting a Stripe Capital loan.
Yeah.
It's true.
No one balks at going out and getting another loan from MindBody. No one thinks about that. And everyone's like, oh, I need some cash to be able to do this, or I need cash to go get equipment. And I get it, because you're strapped for cash and you need it. It's okay. The key is like, what are you going to use that? How are you going to use that to make more money?
Yeah. How do you multiply?
Yeah. You got to have that money is babies. You got to make more babies with it.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that goes back. I always like to relate stuff back to like a 6-week challenge sale, right? And so if you think about people that do complain about, oh, where that money came from, is at the end of the day, like, for me, if someone were to, where was I going with that? I was definitely gonna
with cash collected or loans or
no,
I'm
cash
getting it
collected
from 6-week challenges.
It was the money. Yeah.
Oh, so like the people that may leave like with an objection, or like they either say like, oh, it's just, they leave ticked off in a 6-week challenge sale. Well, they're mad at themselves.
You're saying leave gym launch, or
no. An individual, a member, maybe like when I used to sell 6-week challenges, and somebody that was so mad that came in for a consult, and maybe they did leave me a bad review, and they never joined the program, and that's okay. I didn't delete any bad reviews. I still remember my favorite bad review, but they may leave and they were angry, but in reality, it's like they're only mad at themselves for probably not moving forward. And so the individuals that do get angry about, like you said, it's a 0% interest loan. The only person that gets mad about that is somebody who can't control their finances. And so that's like such a good point that you brought up earlier, is like they just don't know how to spend their money well.
Right.
It's a phenomenal use of money, and it just sets you up in a good position.
Which unfortunately is, I think, a lot of reasons why gym owners end up working with us, is because some gym owners have actually made a lot of revenue over the years. When you think about it, it's just poor financial decisions leading up to it, which is fine. We've all fucked up. We've all messed up.
We've all made it.
And I think it's one of the things that maybe we don't even talk about enough, which is helping gym owners, helping entrepreneurs make better decisions, not just, on your pricing or how to sell, but truly, what are we doing with this money? How are we setting up our family, right, in a better way? Because for me, I remember the weight of just like, is my bank account ever going to grow? How am I going to provide for my kids, my wife, like all this stuff? It was terrifying. And over the years, I thought I would just work harder, and I couldn't work. And it wasn't until I realized I didn't have the right decision-making framework, the planning, right, from a financial wealth standpoint or whatever. And so I think it's, whether you realize this or not, it's one of the things that you and the other coaches do extremely well, I think, is just help people make better decisions. Again, not just around the strategic pieces in the business, but truly to build the life they want.
Yeah.
Right? Finally. Yeah. Because it just seems like just out of reach, and it's just right there. But I think what's really sad is we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of gym owners. Just like a lot of gym owners get to the point where they just stop believing it's even possible.
Yeah.
Right? And they shut their doors or whatever. And
hope.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it. There has to be hope, regardless. And the cool part is that cash flow creates hope.
Yeah.
But it's not just a hope for the future. It's reality.
Yes.
Like, it's actual true. It's the lifeblood of the business.
Yeah.
If I don't have it.
You bought time.
To wrap up the month, though, just to come back full circle to this whole question about the first month in gym launch, I think one of the things that the team does really well, and just we as a company do well, is, we set out on a path to do something, right? Let's say it's launch the acquisition engine and, acquire more leads, customers, everything like that. But the next meeting after your ads go live, right? What are we doing? We're going to focus on one thing. We're going to look at what is the current constraint, right? And a lot of times as a business owner, as a gym owner, it can feel like there's so many things to focus on. Everything's burning. there's so many, where do I focus? Maybe it doesn't feel like everything's burning down, but maybe it's just like, there's so many things to do. And so what we do is we simplify all of it to look at like, what is the one constraint in the business that if we just solve that one thing, everything else either doesn't matter or gets easier, right? And so from there, we simplify, right? We simplify so that you can like multiply, right? So that you can grow. And then you've got your action item, you've got your homework, you've got a game plan, not just a theory, but like, here's the resource you need, here's the video to watch, here's the, let's walk through it together. Now you're armed to go solve that one constraint. And then we repeat this, right? And of course we have different plays and different things we can do, and we can start to install different things in the business. But the concept really that we stick with over time is just, where are we at? What is the current constraint? And what's great and fun and also frustrating about business at the same time is the fact that every time you solve one, it creates a new constraint, right? And that's why forever and always everyone needs a coach, right? So
we played golf today.
Did I?
Yeah, you did, Mike. You sank.
I didn't feel like it. That, for me, that's for sure.
But you sank like a 30-foot putt.
I did.
So, but I always think about it this way from a coaching aspect. If what I look at as the greatest athlete at his respective sport of all time, Tiger Woods.
Tom Brady.
We don't need to go on that tangent, but I'll use Tom Brady too. So if we look at Tiger Woods and Tom Brady, they're both the best athletes at their sport of all time. Even as good as they are, they still had a coach.
Yeah.
As naturally good, Tiger Woods was playing golf at 2 years old, could beat some pros in his early youth age, like 10 to 15 years old, and he still had a coach his entire life. Or Tom Brady had a coach his entire career. Even as good as they are, that they need a coach. Like, do you believe that you would benefit? Or the question to ask is, is it more likely that you're more successful with or without a business coach? And so like, that's a big one to look at. But yeah, that's the piece on the coaching.
I think it's hard because some people believe they've had a coach before, but maybe that coach they weren't a great coach. They didn't have the necessary knowledge, tools, experience, whatever. And then they chalk it up as that's what coaching is. Yeah. Right. But it's like, not everyone's created equal, right? Not every golfer, football player is created equal. Same thing. So it's just like, it's such a huge mistake to just make sweeping blanket, assumptions, right? About the coaching industry or agents or whatever. And it just goes back to being open-minded, right? What does it take to actually be successful? So,
and we're not the coaching program for everyone.
Yeah,
that's true.
We're not. Like, we focus on growth, and we want to push, and we're going to push people. Yeah. We're going to push gym owners. We're going to work on breaking beliefs. We are going to, if we see something wrong, we're not going to sugarcoat it, and we're going to say it.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because of the fact that, you hired us for a reason, and we are the most expensive. And the reason we're the most expensive is because we also have the most amount of resources, the most amount of experience. We've helped the most amount of gyms. We have the biggest track record. And we also have the biggest team behind the scenes that's actually working for you.
It's true.
It isn't like we just have, all of our coaches are full-time coaches. They're full-time coaches who we pay a lot of money to manage and coach you, who have all gone through our system, successfully done it, and coached hundreds, if not thousands of other gyms. Yeah. We have a full R&D department. We have a full-time agency. We have account managers. We have the whole thing in-house. We have a sales team. We have finance. We have HR. We have customer support. We have all these things.
But just on the product side, you have dozens and dozens of team members.
Yes.
Right? From agency to, it's so different. Like, even thinking back to when I was involved in the gym and working with different coaching companies and agencies, the infrastructure we have and the ability to, like, the amount of support that we can give gym owners is currently unmatched. Maybe someday it'll change, but I think one thing that we didn't touch on is the community calls.
All right, so someone's probably going to be thinking this if they've ever tried other coaching services. If I sign up for this, like, what's going to make Gym Lunch different? What's different about our coaching program, our agency services? If I've tried others similar types of programs in the past and I haven't seen significant results, what makes Gym Lunch different?
The way I think about it is, like, back when I was in the gym every day, people walk in like all the time, right? And I get the same objection, like, why should I join this gym versus all these other gyms? They failed. And every single time when I get down to what did you want to achieve, right? And then what did you do to try and achieve that? They were always missing something. They were missing something, whether it was like the nutrition wasn't there or, the the accountability. Like something was missing from the plan. And so when I look at like, oh, I get it. You had a piece of the puzzle, right? But you didn't have the whole thing. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of you guys listening is probably like, you get such amazing results for the clients that walk in your gym after they failed on all these other ones, right? And so when I think about it as it relates to like gym launch and everything like that, there's so many gym owners we talk to. That's a real object. Like I get it, right? It's like a real fear and it's like a real thing. Like I've spent money, I've spent time and effort, and it didn't pan out. But as we peel back the layers, we have conversations, we find we see it's very clear. Oh wow, you got a ton of leads, right? You had all the ads, you had the website, you had whatever it is. But what was missing was, right, something within the model. And there's all the different pieces, right? Maybe it's your pricing, maybe it's your capacity, maybe it's what you're offering, maybe you have too many services. I'm not going to go into all the different things, but this is why strategic coaching, right, and is so important. Because truth be told, anybody can get leads. Anyone can get members to walking in your gym. But to be successful, what does that mean? It means you get a good ROI, right? Return on your investment here in Gym Launch. And I think what it really takes is it takes multiple layers. It takes building the right model. And much like in a gym, if somebody wants to lose weight, have a six-pack, feel great walking around in new clothes, it's not just about showing up to a session. There's more to that. And so when it comes to building a business, it's the same thing, right? And I think that, I know we're phenomenal at that, right? And so I think the most common thing is that something was fundamentally missing, right? And so for a lot of gym owners, this is the first time they have the full, they really truly have the opportunity to have the full plan from marketing, right? From an acquisition standpoint, from lead generation, lead nurture, fulfillment, ascension, extending LTV, everything available to them, and the support through coaching. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, which is the actual solution, right?
Yeah.
It's like what you said earlier, and I don't shy away from it either, in the sense of like, I know you can get leads from everywhere, but I know from a strategic standpoint, we have the best systems out there in this industry for growing a gym and scaling a gym. And so exactly what you were saying is like, you didn't solve the right problem then. You were trying to fix your business, but you still never were given the like true solution to fix it. And it goes back, just because you brought up a 6-week challenge, you can always use this reference too. And so like, to answer that question directly is, you go back to like the dating analogy, right? And so if you've used another service before, what stops you from using this one? Well, it's the same thing as like, you go back to the middle school dating story, right? Yeah. If you got dumped right before middle school dance, did that stop you from ever dating again? Right. And the answer should be no, because you've still got to try and find the solution. So.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, so what do you say to somebody that basically asks, why should I invest in your coaching program and agency services when I've tried similar services before without seeing significant results?
The only answer that I can really give is, I don't even know if you should, because I have no idea. Because I don't know what you've tried in the past. I don't know what those types of programs have offered. Yeah. I can give you what, from my perception from the outside, most of them only give you pieces of the recipe. Never the entire recipe to come out. Like if I'm baking a cake, right, and you give me half the recipe and I need to bake this complex cake, cool. It may be like, no, you're going to have this amazing cake, but you gave me half of it and you forgot to tell me about the sugar and the flour, or maybe a little bit of dash of salt, or you forgot to tell me about adding the eggs in. Well, shoot, like, why is my cake flat? Why didn't it come out like the picture you showed me? Well, it's because you're missing pieces of the recipe. Yeah. And that's usually what happens when people work with different types of agencies or other programs, at least from my experience and talking to people that have been in other programs that have come to us. Are we the right one for you? I can't say. I have no idea. But what I can say is that you can have a conversation about it and see how we are different, and you can join and see how we are different. The real question is number one, I can guarantee you this. This is the only thing I can guarantee anybody, because I can't guarantee that you're going to be successful in the program. No one can do that. But I can guarantee this, that we have the largest, most comprehensive gym business program ever created for every type of gym, to solve almost every single problem that a gym might have. Now, do all of those different types of what we call plays work? Depends. Not always, because sometimes it works in one market, sometimes it doesn't. But do we have the longest list of things that we could possibly use? Hands down. Do we have laundry list of different types of ways to solve problems in every aspect of the business? Lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, retention, finances, business metrics, leadership, hiring, firing, training, onboarding, making better sessions, everything. Do we have that? Yes, absolutely. But at the end of the day, right, you should only invest in this program, in my opinion, you should only invest in this if you are fully committed to actually growing your business and you're willing to take a shot. Because, right, same thing we were talking about earlier, or you just mentioned, right, about the dating analogy, right? The first person you dated usually isn't the person that you married. But if you got dumped by that person and you got burned in that situation, did that keep you from ever dating again? Probably not. So you're out here and you're asking, if you have that question in your mind, you are looking for a solution. Are we that solution? I don't know yet. But I can guarantee you this, that we have every answer to 99.9% of the questions that you might have about growing your business.
To piggyback on the dating thing, just like you get clear on what you do want and what you don't want. And I'd encourage every gym owner to be really clear on what you think you need and have that conversation with our team, right?
100%.
And if you don't know, maybe you've been making the wrong choice all along, and we can walk you through what we think, like at least what's been, worked for most gyms and what they do need.
Yeah.
But
it's good because we get the different approaches. That's the only reason I wanted to do it.
It's good.
A different take on it.
Yeah.
So we have it. Okay. How can I be sure that your approach, this is a question I think is really relevant, right? Because this is a different way of framing it that I used to get in sales. Like, how can I be sure that your approach, Gym Launch's approach, right, will be effective for my specific gym business, given the unique challenges and nuances of the fitness industry? Or you can insert my market or my demographic and all that stuff.
I think for some reason, and I had this myself for years, which is I thought my gym was different. I don't know. I remember even thinking this or saying this, like, oh, we have to market differently. Or my area, it's something about the town or whatever. And I think as we work with thousands and thousands of gyms for so many years now, at the end of the day, human behavior, right? Humans are humans. Human behavior does not change, right? And while there's maybe some preferences you may have about the way something looks in an ad or something like that, which is totally understandable, the truth is you're not a special snowflake. And meaning business is business. It comes down to data. It comes down to, being able to build your gym is really more about frameworks and principles, right, than anything. And so while we can get into like maybe why your demographic or your geographical situation is maybe a little different than most gyms, which maybe there's something to that, the truth is fundamentally to build a profitable gym, right, there are proven principles, there are proven frameworks. And really, if you're going to work with anyone, is it more reasonable to think that you'd be successful with the business that has has worked with more gyms or less gyms? Has made more $1 million gym owners or less $1 million gym owners, right? And when we look at that, right, I think that too many times gym owners think that they have something different about their gym or their market that's limiting their growth. But truthfully, it's usually not an external thing, it's an internal thing. It's like a belief, right? And once we get past that belief, they realize none of that actually matters, right? So I think at the end, business is business, and we know how to grow gyms. And most of the things that you think are keeping your gym from not growing, like the external factors, simply just aren't truths.
How would you answer that?
Yeah, to piggyback on what you said, Mike, a little bit, is like there's not a company out there that has from coast to coast as many 7-figure gyms as we do. And not only from California to Florida, but you're talking about Canada, the UK, Dominican Republic,
Australia,
Slovenia, Croatia. I mean, you could keep going on. And so like when it comes down to it is, I think it's an internal look. It's like, okay, it's not even so much about what assurances can or guarantees can we provide. It's like, okay, are you sure that you're ready to grow your gym and do what it takes to scale? Because we do. We have the proof and we have the testimonies from any given market, literally around the globe, that shows that we can.
The answer to this, in my opinion, if someone's asking this, how can I be sure that your approach will be effective, for my specific gym? the question I would then ask is, okay, well, let's think about this. If you made more money per member per month, would you most likely have more money than you have now?
Mm-hmm.
If you decreased your payroll to the point where you had less payroll, same amount of members, do you think your profit would increase? Like, meaning you became more efficient. If you got more leads, do you think you'd have a greater chance of signing up more people and getting more members? If you provided a better experience for your clients and you kept your members longer, do you think that your churn would go down?
Mm-hmm.
And if you increase how much money you make per member and you decrease your churn, do you think you would make more money per member long term? So if I got more leads, I made more money per member, I got more members, and I kept them longer, would that be effective for your gym? Those are business frameworks, right? There's 3 ways to grow a business. I can get more members, I can keep them longer, I can make them worth more. And do you think if I got more members, if I kept them longer and I made them worth more to me, would that be effective in your business? And would you most likely have more members? We talked about this earlier, more members, more money, and more freedom, right? At the end of the day, that's all we're talking about. We're just talking about those 3 things. And so when you think about our approach at Gym Launch, it's literally to do those 3 things. It is just to help you get more members using a lot of different ways, help you keep them longer using a lot of different ways, and help you make them worth more to you in a lot of different ways. And so that's the approach. And if you think logically and reasonably, like, would that help your business? Then yes, our approach will help you.
Yeah.
Again, this is great. I love all these different takes. Okay. This is interesting. What guarantees or assurances can you provide that your coaching program and agency services will deliver a positive return on investment within a reasonable time frame?
When it comes to guarantees, there's a lot of guarantees in the gym world. Let's be real.
We've had them.
Yeah, we've had them. We've recently actually shifted that and taken that away.
Not because it didn't work.
Right. But because I think people use it as a crutch. Right. And at the end of the day, we've seen over and over again, whether we promise members, promise profit, promise revenue, we can never guarantee what you're going to do. We can never guarantee your work ethic. And at the end of the day, I can promise you this: if you've got grit, if you're committed to growing your gym, right, to your point, if you're committed to going through the suck and being coachable, you're going to succeed. Now, to what level, that's for us to discover together. Now, and a lot of this has to do with your drive and your vision, right? But 1,000%, I can guarantee that we're going to work our ass off. We're going to support you, right? And we're going to help you level up as an entrepreneur and as a human to be able to achieve that. It's not just the gym, right? It's like that life that you really want. So, no guarantees.
Yep. What about you? How would you approach that?
Yeah. I agree with the no guarantee thing, but I think this question actually can tie back to literally what you were talking about earlier. The 3 frameworks is, if you're looking for a guarantee or an assurance behind a net positive return on the ROI, it's like, okay, number 1, let's address what you believe to be a reasonable time frame. So what is a reasonable time frame to you? And then the second thing is, if you did build out a model to where you had more leads, so you had more at-bats, if you did keep your members longer and you did make them worth more, if that's all you did was get more leads, keep your members longer, and make it worth more, is that alone worth it to you? And then it's like, okay, well, if that's worth it, if you got the strategies in place, then we just have to figure out what a reasonable time frame is. Because then it's worth it. Like, you've fixed every facet of your business from an acquisition standpoint to a retention standpoint. And then you can either go, well, reasonable is just, can I make my money back from the strategies you put in place? Yes. By doing those 3 things you were going to. And then if you want to pour gas on the fire and do it more, we can either spend more money or throw a couple more organic strategies in there. So,
okay. How do you address the concerns that outsourcing lead gen and client retention efforts to an agency may result in a disconnected or impersonal experience for my gym members? How about this? I'm going to take this a different route instead of that question. What would you say to the people that have the objection around defined in programs like the 6-week challenge, and how it only brings in low quality leads, low quality members, and produces high churn facilities.
Well, I could directly speak against that.
Do
We
it.
actually, I'll use a short personal story and then I'll go into an explanation. We actually built our gym to over 6 figures a month strictly off of 6-week challenge people, and we had our lower churn was lower than it ever was. And so when you go back to my market and me being an exception to the rule, I thought in South Louisiana, where all we worried about was eating food and being overweight and not working out, I thought we had zero chance of doing this. And we did it off of a free 6-week ad. But I think when you have high churn or you consider them low quality leads, it actually uncovers the true problems of your business, is what that shows us on our team. Is so if you feel as if they're low quality, well then number one, what is a low quality lead, right? And so it'll be, well, somebody who's strapped for cash and can't pay for it. And it's like, well, you're struggling to pay bills in your business. And so what do you consider yourself? Well, that's different, right? And so, but it's really uncovering the fact that number one, you're deficient in your skill set, at least right now, on your ability to help somebody make a decision and like put an investment into your program. And then the defined in program on they churn out at a high rate. Well, now you're just showing us that your service doesn't match the price point that you're charging. And so that's a deeper conversation. But for that one, that's where we're going to go in and start to unpack like the delivery of your service and your onboarding process, because there's without a doubt for me, and I used to track churn in 6-week buckets, right? And so for the most part, it would be on the front end, it would be an expectation mismatch is what I used to call it. And so if you're onboarding somebody and they pay you whatever, $600, $1,200, $2,000 for a front end program, and they end up churning out, number one, the expectation of this should have been a higher quality service, which means your service wasn't of the value that they spent the money on, or you just didn't do a great job of onboarding the individual in general, and your product delivery wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So it really just uncovers the problems that you currently have, which is a good thing though, because then you can address them.
I mean, you went the same direction I was going to go, which is it does uncover, holes, deficiencies in your business or even your own skill sets. A big thing for us was it actually wasn't an inability to sell at all, really. Like we figured that out pretty quick, but people weren't staying when we were doing defined in programs. And you can call it a 6-week, an 8-week, a 4-week, like whatever it is. We've done them all. And I think that's a big thing too. We say 6-week challenge, but at the end of the day, it's like a package on the front with no long-term commitment. You charge high dollar amounts for, you promise amazing results, or at least, say this is what the goal is. And then from there, you want to be able to convert them. And where we struggled, and this is what it exposed, was people didn't want to necessarily stay afterwards, right? And to your point, it just showed that we didn't have enough value for them afterwards. Either we didn't communicate it, maybe it was there, we weren't communicating it, right? There's some kind of client experience, communication, client journey that we could have improved. And so I think it's tough for a lot of gym owners. I think it's tough for a lot of business owners to face the deficiencies in their business. And it's for many people, and I think it's not just business owners, it's humans. A lot of times it's the easy road to blame, right, other external factors, then look in the mirror and say, holy shit, okay, I now have some work to do. I personally need to get better at selling. I need to be able to communicate better. I need to create a better product. So I think it's just, it's common behavior. But if you want to level up your business, you have to level up yourself. And that's takes you owning that, right? And then what really for us, just to wrap it up, I actually believe being able to do define in programs, like packages like that, and be able to sell memberships, serve the business, it was an incredible update to the model for us. We were a large group kickboxing gym, and to be able to sell a high ticket package and also memberships, right? And say, what one's better for you? It helped us really serve the people that were like, I don't want the long-term thing, but I'm on this 90-day journey. I want to lose some weight, and they'd pay high ticket prices for that. But then we've also got this whole, demographic that they just want to come in, they want to be able to do this. And if you don't have that balance and don't know how to do that in a way, it's very hard to get through certain seasons. Because what we could do is we could scale up front end cash when we needed it. we could really step on the gas for scaling memberships when you needed it. And I think that's just one thing from a business model standpoint that a lot of people are missing. You need options in business because every season's not the same. So
yeah. I want to say one thing on that, because you had mentioned it in the, like, it's so crazy to think about. It's when you look at the three things that people are going to like pass off responsibility for. And so in a situation like that, where it's like, they're either going to blame other people, which is going to be the leads. They're going to blame their circumstance, which is going to be the market, or they're just going to refuse to take responsibility that they lack the skill set, or their service isn't as good as it should be.
Or they'll blame the direction from the person who gave them direction.
Yeah, 100%.
By the way, that's not like just a gym launch. This happens in every coaching program, period.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those are the three levels.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it's a lot easier to point the finger than use the thumb and literally just point it back at you.
Yeah.
Because again, it's uncomfortable when we think about it. What's interesting is I can't wrap my head around that thought because of the fact that every time I think of a problem that we have in the business, I'm not just going to point the finger out there, right? It's like, okay, that means that there's a problem. Great. So that means this is good news. I've isolated a constraint.
Yes.
You know what? I am signing people up. This is great. Before I was doing free trials and I'm okay. Now I'm actually collecting cash when someone signs up. Okay. But now they're not staying. Okay. So now what's the problem? I'm 2 steps ahead of what I was before. Right. And now it's like, well, no, now it doesn't work. Well, okay. Well, hold on. It does work to solve one problem, which is cash flow and getting new members in. Okay, cool. Now we have a new problem. Great. Now it just shines a spotlight on your current existing issue, which we would have figured out anyway and would have already bottlenecked you if you ran something else. It didn't matter what you ran. It's not the actual front-end defined program. It's just exposed the actual problem in the program. So now, okay, in your business, this is a constraint. Good news. Great. We isolated it. Okay, now let's solve that. Well, guess what? You're probably going to have another one because you might increase conversions from a front-end defined program. But then, okay, can they stay 90 days after? What about a year? What about 2 years? Right? So like it just highlights it. And it's too many times that we point the finger. We tend to want to, when I say we, I mean just business owners like to do this. I can't wrap my head around it, but it's very easy to do that, to just want to point it at something else as the problem, which is interesting because, you know, when they talk about their clients, and I remember being a gym owner, and it's like, man, they keep blaming all these other things. Just do the work. Just show up to the gym. Just eat the greens. Eat your veggies. Eat your chicken. It's not that hard. You're a mom of 3. Why can't you find time? I don't understand. Stop making excuses. Be your best member. That's it.
That's a good call out.
Take a second. Take the freaking log out of your own eye, right? And let's figure this out. There's still an opportunity here.
And the best part is the market's saying, they're raising their hand saying, I like this. Can you just deliver on it and execute?
That's it.
Yep. I think it's kind of sad. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but like, it's kind of sad that a lot of gym owners and agencies are calling so many people just people out there.
Oh, dude, I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
If you think about it, right? You exist to make an impact on your community and You want to make a difference, and to be able to say, I only want, you know, the leads are bad. The leads are bad. You're calling your community, right? It's almost like you think you're superior to somebody or whatever. And
no, 100%. It is. But it comes across that way. They don't mean it that way.
No, I don't think they mean it that way, but I was just thinking about
that
it,
way.
Right? And it's like, these people need you. And just because, you know, an ad is, you know, saying a certain thing and they come in and they buy a certain thing, whatever, and they don't end up staying, it has nothing to do with your community. It has everything to do with your product or the lack of value or process within your business. And I think if more gym owners owned that, right, first off, there would be less predatory advertising from agencies because agencies are feeding that, right? But also, you'd get out of your own way and be able to retain these members and ultimately make a bigger impact. The money will come afterwards. But I don't know, I just kind of had that realization as we were talking. It was just like it's a dangerous and I think it's a poor mentality to live in, right?
I'll preface this by saying this is completely anecdotal, but it's true nonetheless. When we had the gym and we first started running challenges and we were however many months in, and I'm competitive, so naturally you do. And you can't, I was one of those people and I got ticked off at leads.
Yeah.
And there was a saying that stuck with me, and it's leads don't owe you shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the perspective shift of leads don't owe you shit that made us go harder. And I took a different approach on it. And in lead nurture, I'm telling you that is still burned in my head to this day. And when we took a different perspective, and I got with my front desk girl at the time, this employee, Hannah, and we went hard on lead nurture. Not a single thing changed in our ads, but we went from being in the teens total throughput to 27, 28, 30, 33% total throughput, and 25,000, 28,000, 30,000 in front end cash. Not a single thing changed except mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Completely anecdotal. That was my experience, but it was just a perspective shift of you're looking at them as solely only money, as opposed to what could I, like, instead of saying, you know, oh, I can't believe they would click on my ad and not answer my phone call, to what could I have done better to get them to answer? And that shift genuinely 2x our total leads in door and 4 to 5x our front end cash on the front end. It was like crazy.
Same thing. That's what I tell our sales team.
Mm-hmm.
They don't owe us anything.
Yeah.
You gym owners watching this, like, you don't owe us anything. It's our job to make it absolutely unreasonable for you not to hop on a call with us. It's our job to do the reach outs. It's our job to hound you, to give you every opportunity to at least have a conversation with us to see if we're the right fit. And we may not be, but if we are, great. But if we just sit back and think, well, you know what? They opted in. They should show up to a call. They should schedule. They're an adult. Like, they're an adult. I don't want someone who's not going to show up. That's not the kind of person that I want.
If they were serious.
Exactly.
Yeah. If they're serious about this, well, they don't owe us anything.
No.
So important.
Yeah, good call.
What happens if I'm not satisfied with the results or level of support provided during the 12-month coaching program?
Have a call, Blake. No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, let's schedule a call. I would say that's, so to answer that question, it's circumstantial for sure.
Yeah.
It is, I'm not even going to say a rare, but in a situation where that does come up, we are going to hop on a call with you. Number one, that would be addressed well early on, and not being, what was the question again?
If I'm not happy with the results or the
Yeah,
experience.
what happens if I'm not satisfied with the
Not
results
satisfied was the
or
word.
level of support provided?
Yeah, sorry. So the non-satisfaction is going to come up way earlier on in the program, because we have so many touch points throughout the whole 12-month program. That's going to be called on very early. I would say it is almost non-existent to hop on a call at the end of 12 months and hear out of the blue that, hey, I just have zero satisfaction. So that's going to be addressed early on. And the beautiful thing about having the coaching program is that is something we're constantly looking at, is breaking down the data and making sure, like, we are helping you grow this business, and we're looking at the data. And so the data has to be satisfactory for us to continue working together and make sure that we are solving constraints in your business. But if that comes up at a 12-month time period, we're going to work something out and figure out the best path forward for you to help you either continue to grow your gym or find you the best path forward, even if it's without us. Like, to be honest.
I think when it comes to results, experience, not being happy, there's a fear of, like, am I going to be locked into something, right? And the most important thing to know is that gym lords are here because they want to be here. This is the bottom line, right? And whether that's in year 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, right? So this journey is as long as you want it to be. But going a little deeper, we're human, right? We have an incredible team. But if there's a situation where we screw up, right? We're going to do our best in every possible way to not just, like, make it right, but make it more than right. Right. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot lately. It's so important to just own it. Right.
And I'll say this from the CEO perspective. I don't think that we've been exceptional in the past.
Right.
I think that we have dropped the ball way more than what I would have ever wanted or what any of us would have ever wanted in certain areas.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something I'm not proud of, but I think it's the truth.
I agree.
And that's something that we've focused on a lot. Just simple things like support, like first response time, right? It used to take, like, an hour and a half Like now it's down to an average of under 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Just in support. There's a couple other things, right? And we're addressing these constantly because, we get feedback on this and we listen to it and we want to improve it.
Or even our agency service, the product itself. We had this knowledge within the team, right? Across the whole team, right? In your content and our live events, things of that nature on stage, in daily calls even, where we're like, okay, we know what works. This is from an organic side. Hey, this is the different types of offers we can be running. Yet the product itself of what we were actually delivering, right, in the agency itself hadn't caught up to our knowledge. And that's on us. We were literally saying to do things and we weren't actually following our own advice. And, and that's why, we've gone through this whole update now with improving, multiple pieces of Gym Launch. But yeah, I think one of the most important things, is to just for us to always remember to keep listening to gym owners, our own clients, right? And that we took a little too long to do that. But the big improvements here, like this year, have really come from you guys. Like you guys listening to this, which is gym owners, right? What do you need? Where have we not been the best, right, in the past? And so, I don't know, it's just a constant commitment to make sure that people are, happy. And, at the end of the day, if it's results, it might be, we have to update, what we're focusing on. But if it's an experience thing, yeah, we're going to double down and make it right.
Yeah. I think when people ask this question, of like, what if I'm not satisfied with the results or the support or the service that I'm getting? What they're really asking is, am I going to get my money back?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do to make it right? And the answer is, it really depends. Because I'll tell you this, if we, on our side, because it's a two-way, it's a partnership. If we did everything on our side, we're not doing a refund. I'm just going to say it right now. Like, we're not just going to do a satisfaction, like, money back guarantee. We don't do that because it's really it's both sides. Like, we're going to give you as much information as possible.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you all the support. We're going to do everything we possibly can. And if you don't do the work, we're not, just like you wouldn't do with your own clients, we're not just going to give you a refund because you asked for it, because you didn't do the work.
Right.
That's not how this works at all. However, if we are the ones that mess up, we're going to figure out a way to make it right. Does it mean a full refund? Usually not. Most of the time we'll give you a refund that's equivalent to if there's something that we messed up, or provide free services on top and extend it, or do whatever we can to make it up, no matter what. Also, another times is like, what if I'm in and I'm 3 months in and, it's not working for me? And you know what? Or maybe I just don't like it, right? I'm just going to say this right now. Like, we don't have it in our agreement because, like, why would we talk about people leaving early? But if for some reason we're not the fit, we're going to stop the agreement. We're not just going to hold you into that agreement just because, like, we signed an agreement. We are for gym owners by gym owners. And we haven't talked about this publicly, in my opinion, enough. And I think it's really important for people to understand. But here's the problem. This is why we haven't talked about it publicly, is because people use that as an out because they don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing. We're going to challenge you because if you're like, no, I'm out. Well, it's like, you haven't done the work. You haven't showed up to your coaching calls. Or if you do show up to your coaching calls, all you do is talk about the things that you want to talk about. We don't actually address the problem. And then when you are given something, you don't take action on it. Well, guess what? We're most likely, that's the type of individual that actually needs the most accountability. And so in those times, it's going to be uncomfortable. We're probably going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
But if you're out there busting your butt and doing everything possible, and for some insane reason, which blows my mind because it almost never happens, if for some crazy reason it just isn't the right fit, and maybe you aren't satisfied with the results or this or whatever, it's like, okay, well then let's have a chat, and maybe we aren't the right program for you. And that's okay. Or maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you need to come back at another time, right? Yeah. There's lots of different variables, but we want to work with you at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest thing is when people ask this question, they're asking like, will you give me my money back? Or, will you let me out early? It all depends. Like, we're not just going to sit here and be like, hey, we're sending you to collections. That's not happening.
Right.
We're not going to do that. Like, that isn't what we do here. But I can tell you this, if we mess up, we're going to make it right. No matter what.
It was a good call out though too on the, it's like the work ethic though, that you said. It's not like what you don't want somebody to do is like take advantage of that because use it as an easy out.
Those are the people we probably go harder on.
Yeah.
Those are people we actually want, we're going to keep in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, it's too bad there's not a scoring system almost of like.
That's because you're still,
you know,
because if you leave and you keep doing what you're doing, what does the little Alex cutout say?
Being poor sucks more than working hard.
Huh. Meh. Where you at? He should be behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. How do you ensure that sales scripts, objection handling techniques, and other training materials you provide are tailored to the needs and communication style of gym owners like me and our target audience?
I think when it comes to our scripts, our frameworks, our resources, at the end of the day, they can all be tailored to, they're there to get you moving in the right direction, give you principles or frameworks that are proven to work. But I don't think there's really anything that we suggest or give to any gym owner where we're saying never make it your own, right? The idea here is that you can build, you talked about the foundation earlier, you can build your business based on frameworks and foundation and principles that we know work, but tailor it to your own gym, right? So whether you want to call it a framework of a sales conversation or a script, it's really, the idea here is to give you guidance and principles to be able to be successful in that area of your business, and over time uniquely make it your own. Now, what we do see, at least my experience, is like usually it's best to let's not change it. Just get 10, 20, 30 reps in. It's almost like, whether it's like, I don't know, swinging a bat, right? You play baseball. It's like the first time somebody teaches you, or you guys have been teaching me golf, right? Teach me how to swing the golf club, right? I'm not going to change. I'm not at the point, as I'm just learning, to make any adjustments to what you taught me. I should probably just stick with that for as long as possible. But eventually, when I get enough reps in, right, I can start to get a feel for it, right? I can start to understand what success looks like. Then from there, I'm be like, you know what? Based on my body, based on my feel, I feel better, right, when I do it this way or that way, right? And I think that's a good way to look at like the frameworks of the resources that we provide in Gym Launch, right? Is like, don't mess with the formula, because we want to establish a foundation, right? Or a baseline. Once we have that baseline, that's when we can get fun, right? And this is actually where some of the best things in Gym Launch have been developed, which is when a gym lord, right, one of our clients, takes something, does it for 50, 100, 500 reps, and then says, I'm now at the point, I'm going to make an update. I'm going to test this, it fails. I'm going to test this, it fails. And all of a sudden they crack something. And that's actually the power of our community, and it's one of the reasons why it's almost like a software update that keeps updating itself, which is the community keeps making the product better, right? So all that to being said, it's like, it's just a process.
Yeah. This one, I think you'll appreciate this one a lot. It's I used it on the daily call the other day because somebody was talking about this. And so like when you use golf, and you used golf earlier, which was really cool. But when you think about golf, look, a golf swing is a golf swing, and there's certain pieces that are like set in stone of how you should strike a golf ball, but a lot of it's feel. If you think about all the golfers out there and the different styles of swings they have, they're very personal. But Lee Trevino, phenomenal golfer, very older golfer, but this analogy is so good for like sales scripts, or at least I think. And so there was one time when he was talking about hitting a golf ball, and he talked about new golfers. And he said, if you watch a new person walk up to a golf ball and they look out and they're looking at where they're aiming, and Lee Trevino's like, you can't even hit a ball yet. And why are you aiming? And he said, if you're looking to get in golf, the first thing you need to do, don't even look to aim. You just find an open area and you just hit and you make contact. And once you learn to make contact and strike a ball, once you learn how to strike a ball, then you can start aiming. And so the way that I would look at a sales script is that exact way. And you hit on it. Is it's like, cool, let me follow the framework. Let me ask the questions first. And once I get contact, which is closes, once I start making contact, I start closing people. My close rate continues to go up. Then make it more personalized for your approach. But remember, that's one of the reasons you're coming to the program, because I don't have the skill set of sales yet. So let us show you the way to like slow roll it until you can make it your own.
That's good.
Yeah. I think when someone brings this up in this type of question, because it does come up, like you mentioned before, and it comes up in sales all the time. The thing I think about, and kind of the example I use, is cool, totally understand. And that's a reasonable question. But let me frame it this way. What you're asking is to move to mastery, before we've mastered the basics and the fundamentals. So we're talking about, it takes 1,000 hours. We're talking about, when we talk about tailoring a whole bunch of different things and making it personal to me, number one, we aren't the ones that are going to do that. That's going to be you. But none of that will ever happen until you get to mastery and you have a ton of reps. Just like if a client walks in and they've never lifted anything, but they were just watching the Olympics and somehow they flipped the channel to where Olympic weightlifting was happening and they saw someone doing a snatch or a clean and jerk and they're setting world records and like, I want to do that. Cool. Let's throw all the weight on the bar and I'm just going to do it. Well, it's like, well, hold on. First, we have to understand, number one, we have to break down the movements, right? We have to understand, can we even get into a squat? Do we understand the grip? Do we understand how to do a pull? Do we understand how to do any of this? And we have to learn those basics first. Same thing, we'll make an easier analogy. Did you immediately start at 6 or 5 or whenever you started learning ABCs, did you first start on writing novels and writing essays, or did you first start on learning your ABCs? What came first? Yeah. I had to master the basics first. And when you think about this stuff, if I don't have the skill set yet of actually truly being able to close, I first have to master the basics. And our scripts are built on not just the basics, actually advanced stuff hidden in the basics. And we've designed it specifically for gyms. And now here's the cool part. You could just follow the exact words and say the words that are on that thing, and you could smash it. But the cool part is after you do rep after rep after rep after rep after rep, you suddenly start to tweak things and change things and do the testing, right? And that's when things get really cool. Yeah. But how are you going to test something? Number one, that's mastery. Number one, why are you going to change something? Change the variable, because when you change the variable, you're going to change the outcome. And every time we change the variable, how do we know if it's going to work or not? And that's, I think, the most important thing. Is like, how do we tailor this? We tailor it over time. But we can't tailor it right out of the gate, because if you're coming in and you're not good at sales, why would we change anything? We have a proven system. And this proven system also, by the way, isn't just from like our thinking in here. This is a proven system that we've gone out and spent the money for you to learn from the best in the world at sales. And we're talking every type of sales. We're talking old school, new school, you name it. Top salespeople in the world, not just Alex Hormozy. We're talking lots of different people.
We brought in all different experts,
And we've tested it. And we've tested it based on, okay, close rates, also the feel, how do people, the perception of how they feel during the sales process, and cash collected. And we've distilled it down into a very simple system that teaches you exactly how to do this. And the cool part is once you master that, do the reps, then you have a chance to tailor it and have fun with it.
I heard a quote once, I'm not sure where, but it's kind of relevant to this, which is like, if you're concerned about, it not being tailored to you, every musician first learns to play someone else's music.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, that's the very person that probably wants to do their own thing. But to get there, right?
Yes.
They were looking at the notes and the musical, like the sheet of somebody else's music. And it's like, that's the stepping stone. Right? So.
Yeah, 100%. What is a time commitment required from me and my staff to effectively implement and benefit from the strategies and systems that Gym Launch teaches?
I feel like you're even a little more.
How much time is it going to take for me and my staff to implement this stuff if I join Gym Launch?
Well, yeah, it depends on if you have a team, number one. To implement all the pieces, I mean, as much time as you can put towards it. It's the more time you can put in, the quicker you are going to see more of a result. So,
well, how many hours of calls are they going to have in the first week?
Yeah, so another one, you have the opportunity to show up to between sales trainings and daily calls to ask for advice. You have upwards of 10 to 11 calls a week between sales training, because we have the 5 daily calls, and you have the 5 sales trainings.
But do you ask people to go in the first week when they join to go to
this? No.
So in the first week, what would you say?
Yeah, first week, you're going to have 3 to 4 hours of calls from Gym Launch.
Okay.
So that's week number 1. But a lot of that's going to be onboarding and going through to get a better understanding of your model. So it's not like, hey, we go running and gunning. It's going to be us to get a better understanding of it. And from there, we would say from a call perspective, which you could show up to, in a perfect world, if you could designate between 5 and 6 hours a week, that's a combination of time set aside for sales training and then time set aside, and you don't even have to ask questions, but like use the resource. You're paying for the resource, show up to it to get as much information as you can. But we have calls every single day to where you can ask somebody, whether it's our CEO, our GM, or our coaches, you can ask questions and get a response like in the moment, right away. So in the first week, 3 to 4 hours. And then after that, you have access to upwards of 11 hours, but you don't need to show up to those. We would say 5 to 6 hours a week if possible.
So I'm going to challenge you. I don't think that's true. I think it's more. That's just calls, right? So
Lead nurture,
portal, lead nurture, sales appointments, all that stuff. Like how much to effectively do this, effectively implement and benefit from the strategies and systems that you teach. How many hours do you think? Like how much time commitment? What's the time commitment? Because you think about the portal aspect, you think about lead nurture and everything else.
Well, it goes back to the very beginning, right? Like what I was saying earlier is it depends on how much time you want to devote to it, honestly. And so, because there's hours and hours of content. But if you're going to show up to the 3 to 4 essentially onboarding calls, and then from a portal perspective, I mean, you're going to have between just learning the basics of lead nurture and sales, you're going to have between 8 to 10 hours of content that you're going to have to watch.
Across about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's getting prepped and ready for us to turn on to build out an acquisition model.
I think for most gym owners, the most work you've ever done in a 3 to 4 week period, working with, a partner, an agency, a coaching company of any sort.
Without a doubt.
And it's not even close.
Yeah.
Right. So you could be looking at leaning into your business for an additional 20 hours a week or something like that above and beyond what you're doing now. And that may sound terrifying and impossible to a lot of gym owners. And the truth is you may be in a position where there is no other answer other than that's what it's going to take. But I think one of the reasons we do the deep dive and the onboarding in the week 1 is to figure out where can we get time back. And the truth is there's a lot of gym owners where they're just putting time into something that's just like, it's just not moving the needle. And so we're going to replace that with something that will, right? And maybe not in day 1, but it will be in month 2, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, it is different. Like it comes down to your resources, your situation. And what I keep hearing over and over here is that like, there is no one answer, right? Like this is what makes it different, is that we have to get to know you. What are your constraints? What are your resources? Where do you want to go? Where are you now? And we tailor that to you. But the truth is for every single gym owner, it's work.
Well, yeah, and I think to your point, it's like it's different for everybody. Like the question you could ask an individual that would ask a question like that is, how much money do you want to make?
Yeah, and I think the frame also is, I think when people ask this, they think about how much extra time on top of what I'm doing. The difference is that we just, like you said, we replace it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, if you're broke or you're not growing, or maybe you're not happy with where you are and you've stagnated, well, that means if you're working all the hours and doing all the things, or even if your team is doing all those things, you're not growing, that means they're working on the wrong stuff. So instead of continuing to work on the wrong stuff, unless that's your thing and you want to keep working on the wrong stuff and not grow, if that's your thing, that's fine. We're not for you. Instead of doing that, we just replace it with the stuff that actually helps your gym grow. And while in the beginning, just like learning how to master anything, right? You go from the 4 stages of competence, right? You go from unconscious incompetence. I don't know what I don't know. And that can be a blissful spot. But once you sign up, when you go through that process, you've now gone into conscious incompetence, right? Where now you realize, oh shoot, I don't really know a lot of things. And I now know also that I'm not good at a lot of things, right? So now it's like, this is uncomfortable. But then as you onboard and train, the next step is conscious competence. And that is, I have to think through it, and it takes time and effort now to actually do this thing. So it's reasonable that it's probably going to be more hours than what you currently are spending in the business.
Right.
However, if we replace some of those things with the new stuff, and you might have to add more time, or sometimes you don't, but if you have to, well, guess what? Now the faster you move through conscious competence, the quicker you get to unconscious competence, where you don't have to think about it. And now all of a sudden, this is when scaling happens. And like, it's good news is scaling happens in conscious competence too. But this is when the lights out mode happens in unconscious competence, when you are just like, it is like a rocket ship, right? And you're going to the moon. But everyone has to go through this stage in everything. It doesn't matter.
Even your teams.
Teams have to go through the same thing. because it all starts again. Because when you start something new, right? Every single thing, sales. If I want to learn sales, I start in that exact beginning, unconscious incompetence. I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And then I move into the horrible, uncomfortable, terrible position of realizing I am very incompetent at this. And now I have to learn it. Then you go into conscious competence, and then over time you master it. It's the same thing with everything.
Yeah.
So, all right. How do you address the potential concern that your coaching program and agency services may conflict with or disrupt existing processes and systems that have been working well for my gym business?
I guess I would ask why we're talking. Like if they're working so well, which is great. Like if they're working incredibly well, usually we're talking to gym owners because they want something next. Like they want that next level, and they've had trouble getting there themselves. Right. That's obviously why we exist. We're here for gym owners to help them, build the gym of their dreams. And so I think there's like this. I think a lot of times we get more like romantic about certain things within our business. We feel a certain way about them, but really they're not working, and maybe we don't want to admit it. And so I think I'd peel back we'd have to peel back the layers to see, like, is it truly working? Like, how do we know it's working, right? And start to kind of follow the data there, because I think oftentimes people feel like this is a good feature to have, or this program is really one of the things that sets us apart or whatever, and we actually find that it's actually a distraction or a constraint within the business because those resources would be better used somewhere else. So there's just one scenario that we see a lot, which is there's a certain belief that actually when we start to peel back the layers, the belief itself, it's just the truth is that the thing you believe is working is actually working against you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a tailored approach. So if you are doing something really well and the data shows that, then you don't have to change it. And if you say like, hey, I don't want to change this anyway, it's okay, then you don't have to change it. But we're going to give recommendations based off the data that we see. Because every decision, and we joke about it on onboardings, right? Where it's like, hey, from this point moving forward, every decision that we make is going to be based off data, and we're not going to use emotion to sway. And they get the agreement and the green light. Typically, you get that from the gym owner and the onboarding. But yeah, it's if you're doing something really well already, we don't want to interrupt that, and we don't want to completely change your model and everything unless it's like an active constraint in your business. Then we do want to address it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're not going to do anything unless the data is going to show that you need to make a move on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think doing well is also relative because we've seen so many models. We have the crystal ball because we have access to data. So what you think might be working well right now, and it might be, we know that the setup isn't set up for long-term growth.
Yeah, it's big.
And so then there's a conversation of like, this is great while it's working. In fact, we've seen this a lot with a lot of gyms where it starts this way. And it might be as simple as like we pay our coaches a percentage of revenue for all the clients that show up to their sessions. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that may sound great right now, and it may be working now, but this is going to lead to a lot more problems down the road. And there's lots of different things where it's like, we need to address this now, because if we keep pumping members into this broken model that you think is working well, we're going to have a lot more problems, way bigger problems, right? But like you both said, like if it's working well and it genuinely is, and this is like a proven thing, then yeah, like no, don't mess. Like we're not going to mess with that. Like no, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, and we're not about to do that. We're gonna now. Okay, that means it's not a constraint. Great. If it's not a constraint, why are we going to focus on it? We're going to go focus on the constraint and the thing that's actually the problem. I love it.